Dude, you awake? I think I'm actually having a stroke. My hands won't stop shaking.
Barely. What's up? Why aren't you at the clinic with Sarah?
She left an hour ago for her scan. But Jax, the bank just called me.
The bank? Like for a fraud alert?
No, the teller. The one who always helps us. She whispered into the phone like she was terrified. She said, "Why are you in the lobby right now asking for a full cash withdrawal?"
What? You're literally texting me from your couch.
Exactly. I told her I'm at home. She said, "Mark, I'm looking at you. You're standing right here with Sarah."
Wait, what the hell? Is she messing with you?
"No," she said, "he has your face. He's wearing your jacket, but he's laughing." Jax, Sarah hasn't laughed in 3 years. She's supposed to be in stage 4.
Stay there. Do not go down there.
I'm already in the car. I'm parked across the street. I see them.
See who?
Her. She's walking out of the branch. She's not using her cane, Jax. She's wearing heels. She hasn't worn heels since 2017.
Bro, no way.
And the guy, he's getting into the driver's seat of her car. I'm looking at myself. It's like looking into a mirror across the parking lot. It's Leo. It has to be Leo.
Your brother? The one who vanished in Vegas years ago?
He didn't vanish. He was never gone. I've been paying for experimental treatments for 7 years. 7 years of soul-sucking shifts, clinic runs, insurance battles. I think I just bought them a house with my own life.
Mark, listen to me. Don't do anything stupid. Are they seeing you?
No. I'm behind the van. They just kissed. In the front seat, she looks healthy. She looks beautiful. I feel like I'm gonna vomit.
Call the cops. Right now. That's identity theft. That's fraud.
No. The cops will take too long and they'll just claim it's a family matter. I'm following them.
Where are you? Answer me.
I followed them to a rental unit near the airport. I waited for him to go inside to get bags. I just walked up to the car window while she was sitting there.
Holy shit. What happened?
She didn't even scream. She just looked at me and said, "You were always too stable, Mark." It was boring.
Boring? You spent every cent you had saving her life.
She told me she never had the scans. Every doctor I talked to on the phone was Leo using a voice modulator. Every pill I gave her was just vitamin C. She's been living a double life in our own city for 7 years.
Mark, I'm so sorry. I'm coming over there. Where are you?
Don't bother. Leo came out with the suitcases. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Thanks for the retirement fund, Twinny." Then they drove off.
You let them leave?
I had to, because while they were inside the rental, I did something.
What?
I didn't rage. I didn't fight. I just took the burner phone Sarah dropped in the driveway. It's logged into their offshore account. They think they're heading to a private flight. I just transferred every single dollar to a trust for my daughter. And I called the DEA.
The DEA? Why them?
Because I found a brick of something in the trunk while I was looking for my jacket. Leo was always a dealer. I just gave him a 7-year head start.
Mark, you're terrifying.
I'm not terrifying. I'm just finished with the script. I'm sitting in a diner now, eating a burger. First time I've tasted food in years.
What now?
Now I go pick up my kid from school. Tell her mom went on a very, very long trip. And then I'm deleting this number.
Wait, Mark.
Real power isn't blowing up their spot, Jax. It's seeing through the nonsense and choosing to walk away while the wreckage burns behind you. Chilling over raging. Best lesson I ever learned. Goodbye, man. Thanks for riding it out with me. You know that classic line about backstabbing coming from the last place you would ever look? Yeah. I thought that was total garbage until my entire universe spontaneously combusted. For 7 brutal years, I played super nurse for my chronically ill wife, micromanaging every single pill, every soul-sucking doctor's appointment, and endless clinic runs. Just this morning, she hits me with the usual routine about bouncing over to the clinic for a kidney scan. Exactly 1 hour later, my cell blows up. Caller ID screams it is the bank. Dude, your wife is literally standing in our lobby. The teller hisses like we are in some underground spy flick. And she is chilling with a guy rocking your exact face. Cue the record scratch my brain practically blue-screened. What is up, guys? Welcome to the absolute train wreck of my life. Before we dive headfirst into this dumpster fire, Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop your city in the comments. I am absolutely obsessed with tracking where my wild lore ends up. Quick heads up though. I tweaked a few minor details for the sake of the plot, so do not try suing me if anyone sounds oddly familiar. Anyway, normally the smell of sweet glazed poultry equals pristine vibes at my pad, but today, the atmosphere felt weirdly cursed and icy. Yours, truly, James Cooper, a 62-year-old retired bridge geek whose eyeballs could spot a microscopic crack in concrete, was just kicking back at the kitchen island at exactly 5:15 in the afternoon. That cinematic fall sunshine was hitting the glass just right, making the dust particles look like tiny ravers bouncing over the cutting board. I was totally zoned into my groove, chopping up bird meat into perfect little strips for Sarah's insanely lame, salt-free meal. 7 straight years of this grind, man. I was not just a hubby anymore. I was essentially a pro bono caretaker for a lady whose health stayed stubbornly trash, despite my literal engineer-level obsession with keeping her ticking. I had swapped saving the big city's massive bridges for trying to duct tape together a sick woman's fading lifespan. Just hold on for another 60 minutes, Jim, I muttered, while wrecking a pile of carrots. She is depending on you, bro. Real relationship goals are built on the brutal sacrifices nobody posts about online. Sarah was supposedly over at Memorial Grace right then, hooked up to some beastly machine for her vicious kidney cleanse. I scoped out the wall clock for the 100th time to double-check my math. My whole existence felt like an endless checklist of chores, and I completely flexed on keeping my streak totally flawless. Wiping the grime off on my apron, I gripped my massive cooking blade honestly. That heavy hunk of metal felt like my ultimate comfort blanket right then. The room was dead quiet, except for the fridge buzzing like a giant angry wasp, and some crispy leaves smacking against the window pane. Perfect zen. But seriously, have you ever felt the floor practically delete itself from existence while you are standing flat on hardwood? It began with this chaotic buzzing vibrating across the wooden counter, my phone throwing an absolute tantrum with bone-chilling urgency. I totally ghosted the ring at first, figuring it was just some spammer hyping up bogus health policies or sketchy loan deals I would never sign. Then, the screen lit up like a neon sign. Silverstone Trust and Investments. Instant adrenaline spike. That was the squad handling my dead dad's massive fortune, a nightmare legal maze that had been dragging for actual eons. I ditched the blade and picked up the call, totally ready for some boring status report from a desk jockey. Plot twist. The voice on the line belonged to Daniel, this newbie suit I had barely chatted with twice. The dude sounded like he was having a full-blown panic attack. "Mr. Pierce, it is Daniel from the branch," he sputtered, dropping his volume down to a freaked-out murmur. "I am literally risking my whole career calling your private number." I scrunched my face, posting up against the kitchen island. "Bro, I am deep into meal prep here. Did the inheritance finally drop?" My brain was already calculating how to spend that cash on our mountain of debt. "Sir, I swear I am not hallucinating," Daniel whispered, sounding absolutely terrified out of his mind. "Your wife is in the building. Sarah is chilling in our ultra-exclusive lounge this exact second." Annoyance flared up inside me like a lit match. 0% chance of that happening, Danny boy. She is over at Memorial Grace getting her blood scrubbed. I literally drove her there myself. The kid did not even blink. "Boss, I am staring right through the glass. She is sitting right here alongside you. Well, someone wearing your exact face. Anyway, he is rocking your gray-tailored fit, Jamel. He is flexing your exact watch." The heavy blade slipped and smacked the floor, ringing out loudly against the ceramic tile. A clean break. I just glared at the shiny metal on the ground, my hardware completely failing to compute the crazy math. I am literally standing inside my own house. I barked into the receiver, my voice going totally crackly with pure, unfiltered rage. "He is inking the documents, Jamel," Daniel rasped, the scratch of paper totally booming through the speaker like a thunderclap. "He is forging your signature on the mega payout contracts. The dude is hijacking the entire fortune. If you do not crash this place in 12 minutes to prove you are the real deal, your entire identity is legally toast." The garage gate cranked open like a creepy crypt, and I did not even let it clear my truck's roof before I viciously chucked that bad boy into reverse. I was gripping the wheel so hard my hands turned ghost white, while my head just kept remixing Daniel's panicked warning on an infinite loop of utter chaos. 12 measly minutes. That was my entire timeline to smash a literal doppelgänger before he hit delete on my entire life. Peeling out of the driveway, the cab immediately choked up with fried rubber and boiling oil, a massive middle finger to that cozy, vanilla-scented kitchen I just ditched. I whipped my rig onto the main drag, tearing through Chicago's brutal afternoon gridlock like an absolute maniac, pulling stunts that would have made the 20-minute-ago version of me wet his pants. Every stupid stoplight glared at me like a massive, glowing red roadblock, just mocking the perfectly engineered life I was about to lose. Then it hit me. You know that gut-wrenching, oh crap moment right when a suspension bridge snaps? Yeah, that exact feeling. Sarah's so-called kidney flare-ups magically triggered the exact second I was up for a massive promotion or a killer site check. Funny how that works, right? 7 entire years of straight-up career assassination played on loop in my brain as I practically traded paint with a delivery truck. I spent my life stress-testing steel beams, totally oblivious to the toxic waste dump rotting in my own house. Get out of the freaking way, I screamed at some idiot stalled in a sedan, sounding like a totally unhinged psycho. 12 minutes. No way I'm letting 10 years of sweat evaporate in 12 stupid minutes. I mashed the pedal through the floorboard, letting the engine scream out the pure, chaotic rage pumping through my system. Time wasn't ticking. It was a straight-up chokehold, squeezing the last breath out of my old man's empire. With the city skyline melting into an ugly smear of gray glass outside my window, my brain dragged me back to that miserable day at the Department of Transportation, holding that pathetic, heavy resignation letter in my hands. I can still feel that cheap paper. The big boss actually told me I was tossing the state's most brilliant structural mind right in the trash. He looked at me with this pathetic pity that my dumb self thought was respect. And what did I say? My wife's survival is the only project I care about now. Gag me. Then there was Clare, Sarah's wicked stepsister of a sibling, and the way she stared at me that night. Her eyes were practically screaming jackpot. She'd spent months gaslighting me, calling me a workaholic phantom, until she totally broke my brain. I threw a legendary career into the wood chipper because I bought their lie that my presence was her magical life support. Smashing down the highway, the brutal truth finally smacked me in the face. I was never the hero. I was their hostage. Hot, nasty bile crept up my throat just thinking about how I traded skyscrapers for a fake hospital ward, while the supposed love of my life plotted to slide some random dude into my custom suits to steal the whole damn vault. Seriously, try wrapping your head around blueprinting your own personal jail cell for 7 freaking years. I drifted into the Silverstone Trust and Investments lot like a total maniac, tires screeching out a death metal solo as I blew past the front doors, my heart slamming my ribcage so hard I thought I'd snap a bone. Boom. There it was, Sarah's hideous green BMW X5 plates, RVR 8394 parked like trash by the fancy VIP doors. The twilight glare off the hood was absolutely blinding. RVR 8394. Guess you weren't hitting up the clinic today, huh? I muttered, tasting straight-up battery acid. I slammed the truck into park 10 feet away, boots hitting the blacktop like concrete blocks. Sprinting past her precious ride, I snuck a peek through the back glass. Stuffed right under the driver's seat was a hardcore, Hollywood-level prosthetics kit hiding in the dark. Fake skin glue and creepy color palettes were dumped everywhere. The guy inside wasn't some cheap twin. He was a lab-grown clone. For the love of everything holy, let me be tripping. Just this once. But nope, the foundation of my reality was completely busted. Up ahead, Daniel was lurking by the staff door, looking like a total zombie and wildly signaling me into the alley shadows. Going from the chaotic, deafening roar of Chicago, gridlock straight into that dead silent, ritzy bank felt like stepping into an airlock where someone swapped out the oxygen for liquid nitrogen. Daniel, This edgy-looking bank bro in his late 20s, who owes me his life from that bridge collapse way back, was staring at me like I was a jump scare demon. He yanked my sleeve, clawing at my coat with frantic, terrified energy, and practically dragged me through the covert staff entry. The reinforced steel locked behind us with a nasty click, cutting off reality. I trailed him through this claustrophobic labyrinth of creepy, windowless corridors. My kicks thumped heavy against that overly expensive office carpet. Every single pace felt like free-falling into a massive architectural glitch I couldn't patch up. Daniel started frantically hissing info at me, totally paranoid and dodging the glare of every single security cam. He spilled that the bank's fancy tech security completely missed the faker upstairs. On paper, the guy was flawless. The only reason Daniel dialed my secret line was thanks to a random card I mailed them last month. I'd permanently stamped the corner with my custom engineering seal, a micro detail that Mr. Clone's million-dollar paperwork totally missed. One tiny, beautiful glitch in their absolute masterpiece of a scam. "Dude totally jacked your whole vibe, Mr. P," Danny whispered, practically shaking out of his sneakers while we sneaked past the clueless bank workers. "Even walks exactly like you. Homie even faked that busted shoulder twitch you got going on. But his eyes? Psycho-level thirsty, man. Newsflash, Danny boy. I am standing right freaking here," I muttered, my words hanging dead in the freezing AC breeze. "And I have owned this face for 62 long, exhausting years. That clown in the fishbowl? Total imposter." Ice-cold sweat dripped down my collar as we crept up to the fortress-thick door labeled Security Ops. Dead quiet. The freaky kind of quiet, right before the whole world completely implodes. That gloomy hallway reeked of burnt electricity and dumpster juice coffee, the official perfume of the exact moment my universe got totally nuked. Danny slapped his keycard and went full ninja on the passcode buttons. We shoved into this tiny closet of a room, entirely blinded by a glowing blue wall of surveillance screens. The machines buzzed around us, thumping like some creepy robot heart. My guy did not utter a single syllable. He just smacked the control board. Screen number 4 blinked, snapping from fuzzy garbage quality to a crystal-clear shot of the main meeting lounge. My actual soul left my body. I stood there, practically petrified, staring at my beloved wifey, Marge, the same chick I had been spoon-feeding chicken soup for 7 agonizing years. The exact same woman who was supposed to be strapped to a medical pump right this second was chilling like an absolute queen in a fancy swivel chair. No ghostly skin. No dramatic coughing fits. Homegirl was literally radiating sunshine. She was just giggling it up, sipping fancy spring water, totally vibing with the dude posted up right beside her. Get this. The jerk was rocking my favorite dark gray tuxedo. He had my prescription specs shoved on his face. He was even flexing my dad's golden marriage ring. Do you know how many endless days I wasted gripping her sweaty palms while she faked pulling a tragic exit? That realization hit me straight in the gut like a spiked baseball bat. "Just check out her vibe, Jim," Danny whispered, looking like a neon smurf in the screen's glow. Does she seriously look like somebody begging for spare organs? I was entirely too stunned to speak. I watched my so-called bride lean across the table and rub the fake me's knuckles like they were high school sweethearts. She muttered some secret joke that cracked him up hard. It was totally natural, flirty energy stuff she definitely had not directed my way since the dinosaur ages. The freak-out instantly evaporated, replaced by a pure, unadulterated villain-era fury freezing over my lungs. I kept my eyes glued to the feed as my creepy doppelganger scooted super close to Marge. Suddenly, I spotted that psycho thirst Danny mentioned earlier. Dude was not drooling over my wife, he was lusting after the massive pile of inheritance contracts sitting on the table. I was officially done watching this bootleg version of my life play out on television. I whipped out my cell, tapping the glass like a hardcore military general orchestrating the ultimate clapback. I never took my eyes off screen number 4. Watching this imposter chuckle at some lame pun my wife had recycled at least 1,000,000 times. The monster-level anger was definitely boiling, but I shoved that drama into the back seat for now. I needed an ironclad lawyer shield, and I needed that action yesterday. I punched in the digits for Vic Hayes, a 60-year-old heavyweight money lawyer who sounded like he gargled rocks and ate rookie attorneys for breakfast. The dude answered before the first beep even finished. "Vic, the bad guys are literally in the vault," I hissed, trying to keep my voice from cracking like a pubescent choir boy. "They are practically stealing 30 years of my blood, sweat, and tears. I need you to nuke the family fund, right now." Vic bypassed all the polite small talk. He knew my old man's empire better than anybody. He personally baked a self-destruct button into Dad's will, a rule saying nothing over $1 million moves without my actual fingerprint. And only I can kill the transfer, provided I beat the stamper. "Way ahead of you, Jim," Vic barked into the receiver. "Typing up the red alert paperwork this very second. Do not go crash their little party just yet. You bust in there, they will just pull some backup stunt. Let the rulebook do the smashing." I marched circles around the tiny camera closet, breathing in that spicy static energy. Danny stayed, glued to the control desk. He looked completely ghosted out by the nasty ceiling bulbs, which were definitely bouncing off my sweaty brow. On screen, the fake me leaned over a contract, twirling a pen with a slickness that totally roasted my own style. A massive structure never just magically drops overnight. It squeaks and groans at the bolts beforehand. Well, my reality was screeching out loud, and I was the only audience member. I ditched Vic and immediately dialed my next superstar. Enter Sammy Torres, a 35-year-old hacker for hire who rocked a mega brain for computer snooping and a permanent 5 o'clock shadow. He always talked a million miles an hour, fueled purely by energy drinks and internet gossip. "Sammy, hunt down exactly where my creepy internet clone is hiding," I ordered him. "I need every single passcode, username, and hidden backdoor connection that Claire or Marge has poked at over the past 12 months. The dude's typing sounded like straight-up machine gun fire through the speaker. If that paper stamper guy clicks send on the tablet before I completely nuke the deal. "Dude, we're literally chasing ghosts across the ocean," he warned. "Before you even blink, these creeps are gonna bounce that cash through. Like 3 different shady offshore accounts." My fingers were hammering out a hardcore, frantic drum solo on the edge of the security desk. Total countdown vibes. Tick. Freaking tick. My family's entire legacy was bleeding out. I whipped my head back to the monitor, and there was Sarah, looking absolutely radiant. Zero sign of that pasty, sick girl routine I'd been nursing for 7 whole years. An absolute masterclass in gaslighting. Right when I was about to give Daniel the nod to shove me closer to the mainframe, my pocket did the angry vibrate thing. Text from Victor. I swiped that screen open so fast my thumb almost broke, pulse completely off the charts. "Yo, we caught a massive glitch." Victor's voice cracked the second I jammed the phone to my ear. "The legal block is total garbage unless you physically slam your official engineering stamp on that bank console," he barked. Victor spelled it out. "Your dad was paranoid. Moving anything over $5 million requires more than just a thumbprint. It demands your physical seal and your unique inspector code. Sure, Ryan could totally pull some spy movie crap and fake my prints with a chunk of silicone, but faking 30 years of hard-earned credentials? Not happening." I gripped the freezing metal stamper buried in my pocket. That loser didn't have it. "Then you better haul butt before he hacks the system." Suddenly, this boring legal dispute morphed into an adrenaline-fueled race. A literal sprint toward a computer station that was less than 100 yards away, but honestly felt like it was chilling on another planet. The horrible truth punched me in the gut. Then, Victor's tone shifted into this creepy, super dark whisper that practically froze the sweat right onto my collar. "I fired over the paperwork, man," he muttered. "But I tripped over something insanely sketchy in the accounting books that you definitely left out. Like, completely, mind-bendingly weird stuff." I ripped the hot paper right out of the machine, smearing the wet ink everywhere. But those digits were already tattooed onto my brain, like a fatal diagnosis. That nasty burnt plastic smell from the jammed copier choked the tiny security closet, blending with the gross, metallic flavor of pure panic and puke bubbling up in my throat. My heartbeat was basically a dubstep track in my ears when Daniel shoved the bank logs across the table, completely exposing the garbage Victor was just whispering about. I glared at the screen, tracking this insane bleed of $35,000 vanishing into thin air every single month for 2 whole years. I dug into who was actually cashing these fat checks. Boom. Linda Crawford Realty Consulting Limited Liability Company. Finding out my own freaking sister-in-law was vampiring my dad's cash with some fake biz hustle? Yeah, cue the intense urge to hurl. This wasn't some smash-and-grab robbery. This was a painfully slow, evil parasite situation. And my dumb, trusting self practically handed them the straw to drink us dry. Turns out, that phony paycheck was funding Sarah's ridiculous shopping addiction. We're talking top-tier threads and ridiculously overpriced designer purses, all secretly hoarded inside the exact same storage locker I foolishly believed was protecting my architectural drawings and family legacy bridge plans. 35 grand, I choked out, my hands literally shaking against the cheap paper. Every freaking month. Daniel squinted at the timeline, practically pressing his nose to the data. Dude, these line up perfectly with your wife's kidney appointments. Every single time I was rotting in those depressing, sterile hospital lobbies, begging the universe for a miracle. These monsters were popping bottles over another successful scam. Have you ever stared at a receipt and realized you personally financed the bulldozer running over your life? The glowing server LEDs flashed in this mocking neon rhythm, a self-destruct sequence I had zero power to pause. Hacking deeper into the backup servers, Samuel Torres blew up my phone with an even juicier plot twist. An auto draft for $4,800, paying for some slick corporate penthouse up on the north waterfront, suddenly lit up Daniel's shared screen. I snooped the renter details and plot twist of the century. My own daughter, Claire, was officially inked in as the roommate. A stupid luxury loft, Sam? I croaked at the speakerphone, sounding like I'd just swallowed a handful of crushed glass. I've been trapped in a creepy nursing home replica, tripping over oxygen tubes. While they were living it up by the water? Samuel replied, his tone straight up robotic. The contract kicked off the exact month you resigned, man. Boom. Maximum emotional damage. I literally nuked my top-tier engineering career to play nurse for a villain who was out buying velvet couches for a party pad with my cash. While I was having panic attacks over keeping our bank accounts from imploding, she was stressing over her waterfront views. Every single penny was a knife to the spine. Every decimal point was a massive, calculated lie. All the oxygen just dipped out of the room. The static energy was wild as I finally pictured the massive, evil blueprint of this setup. I was the pathetic architect of my own jail cell, sketching out a life of utter misery while they threw a non-stop VIP bash. I smeared black toner all over the receipts of my totally wrecked life. I slammed to the second-to-last page, hunting down the glitch. Who the heck was the doppelganger chilling in the high-roller suite wearing my face? And there it was. An expense for Hollywood-level prosthetic magic. A $12,000 payout to some shady theatrical makeup lab. Game over. My absolute darkest paranoia was officially reality. Plot twist of the century. The dude playing me? Yeah. His little makeover was fully bankrolled by yours truly. I seriously sponsored the absolute leech, sucking my life dry. Talk about a brutal cosmic joke straight to the gut. Cue the epic training montage music. The heartbreak vaporized, leaving behind pure, unadulterated payback mode. Screw playing the tragic sidekick. I went full mad scientist hacking a glitched system. I saw the weak spot, and I was absolutely ready to smash the self-destruct button. My gaze zeroed in on the ultimate boss-level clue. A shady cash dump heading to some offshore account in B's, set to pop off right at midnight. I shoved my face so deep into the monitor that the pixels totally warped, scrambling the smug mug of my personal identity thief. The furious crunching of my own jaw basically drowned out the obnoxious, non-stop buzzing of those ancient computer towers. I was hyper-fixated on that sketchy buys transfer. But then Sammy's voice blasted through the absolute garbage speakers, jacking my anxiety up to 11 in that tiny closet of a room. My tech guy finally doxed our mystery ghost. Sammy drops the villain's stat sheet onto the iPad, and that harsh neon glow hits me like a literal punch to the face. Meet Ryan Blackwood. The voice on the squawk box crackles, doing an epic dramatic pause. Dude is a 45-year-old washed-up movie extra with a crazy morphing face and a massive gambling addiction. Before he tanked his career, his entire superpower was insane. Special effects, makeup, and copying how people walk. I glared at the pre-makeover pics, just some edgy dude sporting wild, crazy eyes and black hair, and lined them up with the shiny new upgrade chilling in the VIP lounge. They literally fast-forwarded this loser 30 years, and it was creepy how legit it looked. Every single age line and sunspot was pure, evil genius. Dude isn't just thrifting my wardrobe, Sammy. I croaked out, choking on the gross, dusty AC breeze. He is literally cosplaying my entire existence. Then came the massive plot drop that absolutely wrecked my nausea levels. My hacker buddy flashes a screen grab from this super cringe corporate training tape I shot 10 years back. And boom, lurking in the back with the randoms, a baby-faced Ryan. My lovely wife had been holding casting calls for my replacement way before I even clued in. This wasn't some random, spur-of-the-moment brainwave. She spent a solid decade plotting this cinematic universe. My reality was totally hijacked by a professional fall guy. Sammy kept spilling the tea, sounding super bummed by all the dirt he was digging up. This Blackwood creep wasn't just an extra from Central Casting. Bro was totally suffocating under $280,000 in sketchy poker IOUs to some East Coast mobsters. He was basically game over until my dearest wifey handed him the ultimate cheat code. I flatlined the second those receipts hit the screen. Sneaky cash apps flowing straight from my kid's basic influencer blog fund right into the mob's pockets. She didn't just spot him at an audition, did she? I gagged out, the whole thing leaving a totally toxic metallic flavor in my mouth. She absolutely bought the guy and wiped his slate clean. Sammy hit back. And as a solid favor, he is currently vaporizing your financial portfolio. Talk about a dark night of the soul moment. It was way worse than getting backstabbed by a partner faking a terminal illness. It was a savage, calculated draft pick by my own spawn, who literally went shopping for a replacement dad to bankroll her aesthetic. What is the going rate for a kid's affection these days? Spoiler alert, it sits at $280,000 and the family trademark. Major gross-out vibes hit me as their mega scam finally clicked. I was basically just an old overpass they blew up to sell the leftover steel. But wait, there is more trauma. Sammy cracked open some secret cloud files that flipped my cool villain arc into absolute nuclear meltdown. It wasn't just basic selfies of Sarah and this Ryan clown. There were full-on candid shots of him and Claire chilling at that fancy harbor apartment, knocking back vino and playing the perfect, happy sitcom household. They were totally playing house in a luxury pad I was blindly paying for, all while I was stuck back at base camp, scrubbing gross medical wounds and measuring out sad, salt-free soup. I zoomed in on the bling shining on that imposter's hand. My literal wedding band, the one I swore I dropped down the garbage disposal like 12 months back. Boom, hit me. He wasn't just scamming the tellers. He was getting premium access to a bedroom I'd been banned from since forever. The clone rocking my face wasn't merely jacking my crypto. He scooped up my entire happily ever after, benching me as the ghost maid in a total trash fire of a fake marriage. My sneakers smacked against the creepy, hollow bank corridor as I literally booked it for the exit. Running on pure adrenaline, I needed to grab the physical receipts stashed at my place. I ditched the corporate prison, totally numb to the freezing windy city breeze slapping my face. My brain was flashing a neon blueprint of epic fails, mapping out exactly how my whole existence had been hacked from day one. Walking back into my own pad felt like trespassing in a graveyard I'd spent 7 years decking out with phony vibes and bogus pill bottles. That classic funk of old flower spray and polish hit my nose, a vibe that used to scream safe space, but now just reeked of a massive, toxic cover-up. I just posted up in the foyer, letting the dead quiet sink in. On a normal day, welcome to my personal tragedy, folks. Usually, This dump vibrates with the fake humming of a knockoff kidney gadget I bought to baby Sarah. But since she is supposedly out securing the bag at the bank, the dumb machine is dead silent. It is giving major ghost town vibes like that creepy calm right before the entire universe implodes. Cruising into the living room, I immediately lock eyes with a crusty framed pic of my lovely spawn, Claire, looking down from the fireplace and practically trolling me with that plastic smirk. "Look who finally made it home, Jim," I muttered to absolutely nobody. Back to this literal dumpster fire. I had flushed 7 whole years down the toilet for this joint, completely blind to the toxic garbage rotting right under my sneakers, until I went to ditch my jacket and totally froze at the closet door. The vibe was seriously off. So I yanked the door open and aggressively body-checked those bulky winter parkas out of the way. Boom! Hiding in the back corner is a wildly bougie, hard-shell suitcase combo that definitely did not belong to me. I ripped open the tiny one, fully expecting boring hospital junk or gross medical tubes. Nope. It was stuffed with flashy summer fits and silky little numbers. Homegirl was packing for a hot girl summer in the tropics, not a depressing kidney clinic, which totally cracked open the dusty vault in my brain. Once you spot that first glitch in the matrix, the whole simulation just violently shatters. The sunlight smacked a framed wedding invite on the wall, dragging me kicking and screaming back to Claire's massive party 5 years ago. Cue the flashback. I am sweating bullets in a pitch-black bedroom on this insanely hot July afternoon. I am gripping Sarah's hand while she fakes an epic Oscar-worthy meltdown over her quote-unquote chronic organ pain, acting all selfless like, "You go without me, Jim. Do not let my busted organs ruin her aesthetic." Being the absolute simp I was, I flat out refused to bail, totally convinced my loyal night act was keeping her alive. I chilled in the dark for 6 miserable hours, doom-scrolling Claire's feed as she flexed this insanely crazy lakeside bash that I was literally banned from. Plot twist. Sarah's little sickbed drama was not sad at all. It was a straight-up supervillain strategy. She kept me locked down so nobody would catch on to the fact that Ryan Blackwood was casually chilling in the VIP squad. I was not some tragic hero. I was literally babysitting the gate for the guy stealing my life, and the cringe is physically making me sick. I spun around to the hall closet and yanked the rope for the attic drop-down, which clanked open looking like a rusty skeleton. The busted wood shrieked like a total banshee, basically the house screaming at me to stop digging up its dirty laundry. I crawled up into this airless hellscape, immediately suffocating in the gnarly, dusty oven heat. Waving my flashlight around the creepy beams, I finally locked onto these rolled-up construction maps for the crib. I slapped them down onto a crusty chest, and sure enough, my own genius layouts were totally defaced with Claire's aggressive, messy scribbles. She literally used a highlighter to mark off these specific spots labeled as dead zones, basically areas where she figured out the soundproofing would totally block my boomer ears from eavesdropping or where I could not spy on anything. This girl literally weaponized my own architecture against me before my light caught this gross, dusty briefcase shoved behind some cheap Christmas junk. Cracking it open, I found Claire's prehistoric laptop chilling in some foam padding. It was hot-wired into a shady, bootleg outlet behind the electrical panel, glowing with this creepy green pulse, like it was just waiting for me to uncover my ultimate villain origin story. The screen violently flashed on, throwing this icy neon light on all the floating grime, and making my calloused hands look like a depressing map of epic failures. I just face-planted onto the disgusting floorboards, completely crushed by the insane, sweaty garbage heat of the insulation. I literally gasped when the password prompt popped up this terrifying little box, asking for a code I had no business knowing. I went with the most brain-dead obvious code, just 4 numbers that were basically a massive slap in the face. 0514. My own freaking birthday. The psycho literally used the day I popped into this world to dig my grave. The screen was trashed with fake nice icons for vacation dumps and boring blog posts. But my radar locked onto this shady hidden drive masking as a trip gallery, so I start smashing the trackpad like a maniac while my heart goes totally haywire. Boom. Right inside is a directory. insanely titled Operation Legacy. It was organized with this crazy-level nerd logic, like the exact way I used to map out massive freeway overpasses. Except this blueprint was strictly for totally wrecking my entire life, revealing that Claire had straight-up stalkerware running on my cell for literal years. It was an invisible leash, letting her instantly trash any cache alerts, mute all my alarms, and nuke every single clinic email before my screen even buzzed. I am supposed to be this god-tier inspector who spots microscopic cracks in heavy metal from 50 yards out, but I totally missed the bloodsucker hanging out right in my own pocket. This is not just some random computer file, I hissed into the sweltering black hole. This is a full-blown nuke. Dude, my hands were totally glitching out on their own, swiping through this insane digital playbook detailing a 7-part master plan of pure evil. Step 1 was literally labeled the sickbed lockdown. Like, cue the dramatic villain music. It broke down how Claire totally hired some washed-up med school dropout, Dr. Harrison, to sling hardcore tranquilizers that faked kidney failure symptoms like an absolute boss. Scanning Claire's little evil status reports made me want to straight-up barf as the totally messed-up truth hit me. She literally bragged that my ultimate simp energy made drugging her a breeze, and that I was way too busy playing Captain Save-A-Ho to even peek at the prescription labels. Have you ever had that gut punch moment where you realize the meds you totally hand-delivered to your so-called dying wife were actually the toxic garbage keeping you trapped in a living nightmare? Even while you were out here fluffing her pillows like a total chump? Plot twist. I was basically the clueless sidekick in my own hostage situation. Step 2 was this super creepy countdown called Waiting for the Legacy, literally stalking my dad's failing health like thirsty buzzards ready to swoop on a $6.8 million payday. And these psychos had been hovering for 7 freaking years. Fake pills, major gaslighting, and basically 7 whole years of my existence boiled down to a totally bogus spreadsheet. The further I dug into this trash fire, my heartbreak completely morphed into this ultra-chilling, cinematic revenge mode. I clicked on a tab named Dope Schedule that literally shattered my last shred of hope, especially when I spotted Sarah's fancy little handwriting scribbled all over the margins. She was not some helpless damsel getting roofied by her kid. She was the freaking co-op team captain. This chick was strategically picking the exact right moments to pop those pills and fake a major medical meltdown. Anytime I dared to bring up a work trip or a weekend getaway, she weaponized her own biology to keep me permanently tethered to her little web of lies. The cringe factor was totally off the charts, like a massive architectural wipeout that no amount of duct tape was ever going to patch up. Sweat was absolutely pouring down my neck, and the attic oxygen completely dipped out as this heavy-duty reality check slammed into me. I swiped down to the very end of the document and totally blue-screened. Bam! Ultra-crisp snapshot of some random dude chilling in a super creepy clinic alongside the sketchy doc. This was the exact dirtbag supplying the chemical handcuffs for my epic prison sentence, the literal architect of my tragic backstory. I just glared at that headshot, permanently burning his ugly mug into my brain for the epic boss battle that was obviously going down. Dude, it is a uniquely brutal psychological mind bend to watch some rando train to steal your identity, entirely directed by the supposedly loyal wife you swore to die for. My mouse hovered over a totally sus file called Copycat Hacks, and my hand was straight up vibrating as I smashed the play button. The screen's weird blue glow threw these crazy, comic book villain shadows all over the attic roof, making the whole room feel like the ultimate crime scene. The footage was crystal clear, filmed right inside that bougie riverside apartment my dumb self had been paying for. Center stage was this guy Ryan Blackwood, totally slouched over a tablet like an absolute tryhard. And there was Sarah sitting right next to him, totally glowing and perfectly healthy, completely ditching that zombie makeup routine she rocked at our house. I literally watched this clown forge my super specific architectural autograph, like, hundreds of times. Epic fail, Ryan. Sarah's voice blasted through the audio, sounding like a totally savage drill sergeant. My husband always stops right before the letter P. He stalls out like he is double-checking a joint. It is a glitch he picked up after that major bridge collapse in '98. A totally gross shiver ran up my back as I realized this psycho had literally weaponized my deepest personal trauma like an instruction manual. I caught another clip dropped exactly 1 month ago, showing her giving him a total masterclass on faking it in public. If the bank guy gets overly nosy, I will totally shut it down. She flexed, waving her hand. We will just lie and claim my hubby blew out his vocal cords from sheer panic. Dude is so basic. Cosplaying him is practically a snooze fest, Ryan sneered, aggressively shoving his spectacles up his nose, completely jacking my signature nerd move. Cue the dramatic rewind. Hearing my wife cackle like a total witch honestly felt like a chainsaw to the brain, and I just parked it in that roasting attic way past the video fading out. That toxic replay audio just kept bouncing around the quiet room like a bad pop song. My entire existence turned out to be a straight-up academy of lies, and I was the only clueless dork missing the study guide. I finally slammed that screen shut, leaving the little green power light pulsing like a creepy heartbeat as I totally bailed from the crawl space. I ghosted down the corridor, blowing past the sick room where I spent literal ages playing nursemaid, and crashed into the main washroom. I kept it completely pitch black at first, letting that cinematic moonlight crash through the foggy glass while choking on the aggressively fake scent of Sarah's bougie perfume. I posted up right in front of the freezing, polished looking glass and aggressively smacked the light switch. I stared down the absolute loser, staring right back at me. For 7 whole years, I completely played myself as the tragic hero, the hyper-anxious hubby, the dude rocking that pathetic, hunched-over servant posture. But not anymore. Ever stare into a mirror and realize you are basically haunting your own freaking house? Yeah. I was done playing the invisible poltergeist. I rolled my shoulders back, snapping into posture like a total psycho evaluating a skyscraper's core support beams. I blinked away the pathetic sad boy vibe, locking in that terrifying, dead-eyed glare that used to make the newbie interns literally shake. Nice job copying the wrapping paper, Maggie. I mocked the mental image of her stupid face. But you completely missed the concrete underneath. You can fake my limp, but you cannot clone my titanium spine. It hit me, sure. The scumbags jacked my wardrobe and my wedding band, but they could never snatch my hardcore, unbeatable stubbornness. The name is James Cooper, and by tomorrow morning, I am blowing this entire fake-ass bridge to smithereens. Throwing freezing water on my face, a shiny memory hit me. That clown Ryan on the video feed earlier was rocking a very specific piece of wrist candy, not some cheap knockoff either. It was my legit custom anniversary watch, the heavy metal one I swore I left in a nasty hospital cafeteria 3 years ago. This total psycho did not just swap me out. She had been treating my life like a thrift store for literal years. I gripped the porcelain sink so hard my fingers basically turned into chalk. Bye-bye, pathetic pushover. Hello, absolute menace. My truck beams practically slashed through the gross, soupy Chicago mist. Twin lasers of pure karma gunning straight for the snake who butchered my existence for $35,000 a month. I was white-knuckling the steering wheel, the engine roaring in my ribs as I rolled up to the mega-rich gates of the Gold Coast. I was completely done playing the sad, sweet hubby, serving up chamomile tea and fluffing stupid pillows. That loser bit the dust an hour ago in the bathroom. Now, I was the head honcho hunting for the exact spot to snap this crooked scheme in half. I hit Linda Crawford's over-the-top luxury penthouse at exactly 11 p.m. 56-year-old Linda frantically tugged at her stuck-up blazer as she cracked the door, literally trembling when I shoved my way inside without waiting for a hello. She tried to play the "oh my gosh, you woke me up" card, but the reek of snooty, hospital-grade room spray and her totally obvious, panicked side-eye toward the laptop gave her away. She was sweating bullets, waiting for a text that never arrived. I stomped straight over to her bougie glass table and slapped the hardcore financial receipts right down on it. The paperwork practically glowed under her snobby ceiling lights, looking like a literal crime scene. "You flip real estate, Linda," I hissed, my voice freezing her out like a gnarly Midwest blizzard. Since when are you a magic kidney doctor for my wife? She went completely pale as I jabbed a finger at the shady auto drafts, moving cash from my dad's trust straight into her fake-ass business. Jamel, I swear I was just being a good friend, she squeaked out, sounding totally pathetic. She said you were a total cheapskate. She was freaking out about paying the medical bills. I loomed over the glass, basically boxing her into a corner with my shadow. Then Linda dropped the bomb that she was the actual matchmaker for that massive creep, Dr. Harrison. She tried playing dumb, swearing she thought he was some granola wellness guru, not a med school dropout slinging heavy knockout drops to turn my brain into total mush. What is the exact going rate for backstabbing your own family? Turns out, it is $25,000 a month and a sick water view. I just death stared her. The dead silence in the room only broken by the super dramatic crashing of waves outside. I am an engineer, lady. I know exactly when a building is about to totally cave in. And right now, you are the absolute flimsiest screw in this entire trashy scam. I laid out the brutal truth about their little secret club, watching her eyeballs practically pop out when it clicked that washing $850,000 meant she was going straight down for federal crimes. I was not there for a therapy session. I was there to absolutely crush her. You have two choices, I growled, getting so close I could literally see the nervous sweat on her face. You can take the heat from the federal agents tomorrow morning as the ultimate bad guy. Or you can sign this paper right now and help me absolutely torch Claire and Sarah. I slapped down the legal forms, digging the sharp edges into my hands just to feel something. Linda checked the exit like she might make a run for it, then stared back at her own doom right there on the table. They swore it was just a smart way to get her fair share. She whimpered, desperately grabbing a pen. I swear I knew nothing about that actor guy. Scritch-scratch went the pen. Ah, the beautiful sound of a cowardly rat saving its own skin. The second she finished signing, she completely lost it. Claire was secretly taping your midnight mumbling for months. Gmail, she sobbed, super quiet. She used those audio clips to teach that creep Ryan how to mimic your exact vibe and voice. Every deep dark secret you whispered while knocked out was handed over to him so he could ace those insane banking interviews. He knows your entire life story because you literally spilled your guts to him while heavily sedated. I wanted to legit puke. The thought of them mining my sleeping brain to pull off some massive robbery was next-level disgusting. I yanked the confession away, wet ink and all, right as her pathetic signature started drying. My cell phone started going totally crazy in my pocket. Bam. Incoming call. Some random New York zip blinking on my screen like a glitch in the matrix digits I hadn't laid eyes on since the dark ages. I just glared at the stupid thing. It was lighting up my dark apartment like some trashy cyberpunk neon sign, dragging me, kicking and screaming back to a total ghost from my past. The icy blue glare from my cell kept throbbing inside the pitch-black cab of my beat-up truck, thumping like a messed-up digital heartbeat, and flashing an East Coast area code that had been haunting my literal existence for 9 agonizing years. I kept my eyes locked on the display, those digits burning a hole through the soggy Chicago midnight while I finally peeled away from Linda's sketchy complex. My fingers were totally trembling as I swiped right to pick up, staring through the freezing windshield sweat that turned the street lamps into tragic, crying halos. Shoving the receiver against my ear, all I caught was this gnarly, crackling static, a massive dead zone that felt wider than the entire freaking ocean. Dad, the voice cracked, totally rattled but undeniably deep. It's Ethan. Don't even think about hitting end call. Ethan Pierce, my 34-year-old kid. He still rocked that mellow rhythm of his grandpa. But right now, he sounded exactly like a dude snapping out of a 10-year sleep paralysis trip. I totally choked. My throat literally locked up, and this crushing, heavy metal weight slammed into my ribs so hard I forgot how to breathe. Ethan, I managed to croak out. I haven't caught a single word from you since you were 25. Right away, he starts spilling the tea about catching some totally unhinged, cryptic online rant Linda Crawford posted. She blabbed about me showing up with receipts at her doorstep, and the dude just couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. Boom. Just like that, The entire villain-era fortress of lies Claire had built started smashing to absolute pieces right inside my front seat. Get this, my boy drops the bomb that Claire had been secretly dropping fat allowance checks on him from some sketchy shadow fund for the past 3 years. I instantly clocked the dollar amount. That psycho was leeching off my own dad's hard-earned legacy, weaponizing my personal inheritance just to buy my kids silence. She played dirty with my cash to gag you, Ethan. She literally cashed out your grandfather's blood and sweat to fund your banishment. Seriously, how are you supposed to patch up a 9-year black hole during a 10-minute chat when your whole universe is literally going up in flames? Click, clack, click, clack. The dashboard hazard blinkers kept time, ticking away like a dramatic metronome for all the epic wasted time between us. His confession took a massive nosedive into absolute chaos when he brought up an email from 6 months back. It was totally from Claire, but blatantly addressed to that fake wannabe, Ryan Blackwood. Attached to it, a straight-up evil master plan labeled Phase 5 of some twisted junk called Operation Legacy. He confessed he totally chickened out on calling me back then, passing it off as some edgy fanfiction script or a mega-toxic prank. For ages, he swallowed Claire's poisonous garbage hole, buying the narrative that I ghosted him, that I was just some pathetic, salty boomer who canceled his own son. I swear I thought it was a troll move, Dad. Like a script for her bougie vacation vlogs. I never dreamed she was literally trying to delete your existence. His voice shrank down to practically nothing, every single sorry syllable completely destroying the epic gap that had been keeping us apart. She gaslit the whole world into thinking, I slammed the door on you, kid. And she fed me this bogus story that you absolutely despised my guts. The dead air on the line? Far from empty. It was heavily packed with all those stolen years hijacked by an absolute supervillain. We just hung out in that vibe, Pop and Spawn, linked by invisible cell towers and intense mutual damage. Then Ethan's tone flipped from tragic mode straight into red alert warning. He dropped a bombshell. In that botched email, Claire totally flexed about having a backup legal stamper waiting in the wings, a shady buddy willing to forge anything for the right stack of cash. My stomach took a straight plunge into the Earth's core. That legal block Victor was tossing at Silverstone Trust would be completely useless if her crew bounced the meetup to an off-the-grid spot or a totally different office. The justice system was supposed to be our firewall, but Claire was basically hacking the mainframe from underneath. I'm flying back, Dad, Ethan declared, his tone locking in with raw, do-or-die energy. I secured the digital receipts. I have the paper trail. Plus, I'm holding on to a major wild card. She leaked details about a Phase 7 that isn't even on your radar. I choked the life out of my steering wheel, the freezing leather biting into my bare hands. I was no longer playing solo. That brutal solitary confinement Claire hardwired for 7 straight years, it just suffered a total, epic system crash. The crazy Chicago wind screamed like a banshee through the rusted metal bones of the subway lines overhead, throwing down a depressing, industrial screech that vibed perfectly with the ice-cold focus locking down my brain. By 6 in the morning, the ugly gray dawn finally started hacking its way through the dense city smog. Rolling up to our secret drop zone, my brain was totally short-circuiting over what the heck Ethan's Phase 7 warning actually meant. I camped out inside this super boring, basic silver ride, stashed 1 block down from the Silverstone Trust fortress, listening to the engine go clink, clank as the heat died down. Riding shotgun was Detective Morris, a 45-year-old fraud squad boomer with dead eyes and a chin that looked chiseled straight out of concrete, fiddling with the secret mic taped to my chest. Victor Hayes was chilling in the back seat, looking like the grim reaper of the courtroom, aggressively scanning through Linda Crawford's freshly inked confession papers. Speaking of Linda, she was shaking like a leaf in an unmarked cop car 10 yards back, looking totally ghosted and mute. Her gig as the flimsiest pawn on the board was finally paying off big time. Morris aggressively cranked up the dial on our spy gear. That gnarly, electric snapping sound in our ears served as a hardcore reminder that it was literally game over if we botched this. The cops spilled that they had spent the entire night hunting down Dr. Harrison. Turns out, The dude wasn't just a canceled academic, but literal childhood besties with the fake Ryan Blackwood. Turns out, this whole twisted plot didn't just drop out of the sky. It traced all the way back to Ryan's super shady history, way before he ever crossed paths with my kid. "Got your mic set," Detective Morris muttered, sounding like a gravelly narrator in a noir flick. "Whatever they spill in there is going to bury them 10 feet deep." I gave a tight nod, staring out the window as a city transit bus blew a nasty cloud of exhaust right across our view. "Look, man, I designed steel structures that hold up for over 50 years, I told him. "There is absolutely no way I'm letting this sting operation fall apart before I get my payback." We just sat there freezing our butts off in the early dawn, watching the metropolis shake off its sleep like it didn't even care my entire universe was imploding. Seriously, ask yourself, have you ever lurked in an alleyway and watched some total clone hijack your daily caffeine run, rock your best threads, and snatch your spouse's devotion, all in one shot? Right at 8:45 in the morning, that flashy green BMW X5 rolled straight into the premium parking zone. I pulled up my heavy-duty specs, practically choking on oxygen when the dude actually hopped out of the front seat. Get this, Ryan Blackwood was casually rocking my absolute best dark gray blazer, the exact custom outfit I got measured for when my old man passed away. The guy's hairpiece was insanely spot on, right down to the little fake gray streaks on the sides. Honestly, it totally made me want to puke from how gross and invasive it felt. Then Sarah slid out, putting on this wildly dramatic show of acting super weak. She totally clung to his side, milking the whole tragic, helpless damsel act right into the surveillance lenses. Barely a second passed before Claire rolled up in some random Uber, hopping onto the curb looking like a total corporate shark ready to bite. "Check this creep out," I hissed, clenching my jaw so hard it hurt. "The freak is literally copying my bad weather limp." Victor leaned up from the back, slapping a massive hand down on my jacket. "Keep your cool and don't blow the groove, Jim," he warned. "You stay completely off stage until I drop the cue." I kept my eyes glued to the glass as the squad walked up to the entrance, practically hearing the heavy snap of the vault security disarming in my own head. And then, boom, I spotted the final insult. When Maggie tugged at her shawl, that shiny health warning band I dropped cash on for her was totally missing. Instead, she was flashing this ridiculous, iced-out timepiece that was practically blinding under the sunrise. That was my mom's jewelry, the exact same heirloom they swore vanished during the legal paperwork mess. Turns out, their toxic garbage wasn't just coming out of their mouths. They were literally wearing their lies. 9 o'clock sharp. The deadbolts clicked. The gates unlatched. The whole squad of backstabbers vanished inside, and suddenly it felt like someone had sucked all the oxygen out of our undercover ride. Morris threw me a quick, intense look, the ultimate green light, proving our cyber squad had successfully hacked into the building's mainframe. I reached up and tweaked the tiny bug taped right under my necktie. With a massive wave of pure, unadulterated fury finally ready to detonate, I shot Victor a glance, kicked the door open into the icy breeze, and marched straight for the financial center. I casually strolled into the painfully clean foyer at the exact second the legal rep in the main boardroom lifted her stamp to finalize the scam. My reflection hit the windows like a ghost coming back for vengeance. The quiet inside that place was intense, just this heavy, freezing vibe reeking of cheap cleaner and total disaster. Right as I strutted up to the entrance of the meeting space, those heavy glass panels didn't just quietly part ways. It was honestly like prying open a cursed, 7-year-old vault and letting reality come crashing down. I crashed the party, immediately getting slapped in the face by that super harsh chemical freeze from the vents. With Victor backing me up like a heavyweight bouncer and our favorite cop hanging back to cover the exits, I stopped dead, exactly 3 feet from their fancy wooden desk. I totally ignored the branch boss and didn't even glance at their stupid documents. Instead, I locked lasers straight onto the loser, rocking my identity, my best dark blazer, and my mom's icy wrist bling. "Pretty sure you're playing with my favorite signing tool," I dropped, keeping my tone absolutely sub-zero, like a brutal December breeze hitting the windy city. The only sound was the official stamper loudly smacking the wood. The poor clerk just stared at us, arm totally stuck in pause mode, while my so-called wife quickly plastered on a fake look of complete shock. "Excuse me, but who are you supposed to be?" she gasped, throwing on that award-winning, shaky victim routine. "Jim, sweetie, do we know this weirdo?" I just let the awkward tension stretch out like a giant ticking time bomb. See, here's the flashback. Right before crashing their little club, I took a detour to the front desk terminal. The tech required a two-step security check. I smashed my actual finger onto the glass identity, instantly verified. Next, I slapped down my official architect stamp, the one thing my cheap knockoff could never fake, right onto the sensor. The computer dinged with a sweet automated message saying the top boss was back and all those nasty security lockdown protocols were officially killed. Back in the present, I watched through the window as my fake double stared at his laptop in pure panic. Sirens and danger signs were popping off everywhere. Access completely blocked. Official stamp missing. All those documents he was about to ink instantly turned into a pile of seriously overpriced garbage. The guy might have stolen my vibe and bathed in my signature scent, but deep down, his personality was basically an empty, abandoned parking lot. I stood there watching Ryan's fingers literally lose their color from gripping the edge of the table so hard. He was frantically scanning my face, desperately looking for some cheat code his acting coach forgot to teach him. "Killer outfit, Rye," I smirked, flashing a totally ruthless grin. "Too bad you completely forgot one tiny detail. A structural engineer never misses the tiny fractures hiding in the concrete." You could totally tell his whole speech was rehearsed. The dude's timing was lagging like a bad Wi-Fi connection. I dug into my coat and whipped out the massive file of receipts Samuel had hooked me up with. Smack! I slammed the fake guy's entire life story right onto the glass table, including the $280,000 he owed to the bookies. The morning glare bounced off the glass like a flashbang as the papers spread out like the worst poker hand ever. Talk about a colossal mistake. Ryan's cool guy act completely short-circuited, and he started tweaking out like a rat trapped in a maze. "Jamel, do something," he whined, throwing a desperate look over at Sarah. But she was just staring at the file, looking absolutely mind-blown and clueless. Ever stare into a mirror and realize the glass is actually just a window for a creepy stalker? Yeah. Well, the plot twists were just getting started. I locked eyes with the notary as she tried to sneak her chair toward the exit. "Don't even think about it, Sarah Vane," I warned, dropping her government name to keep it real. "I've got all the tea on your little bestie situation with Clare. I literally read the emails where she promised you a slice of that beast money just for playing along today." Sarah went completely pale, frozen stiff in the middle of the exact same scheme she thought was going to make her rich. I could see the sweat soaking right through the collar of Ryan's suit, which, by the way, was the exact same suit I wore to my dad's funeral. Gross. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. Just pure toxic garbage finally getting dragged into the daylight. This conference room was officially a cage match, and I held all the keys. I leaned hard over the table, casting a super dramatic shadow right over Ryan's shaky little hands, and just watched his soul basically leave his body as he realized he was totally busted. I got so close I could spot the fake plastic edges behind his ears and whispered his actual name right when Detective Morris casually rested his hand on his piece. "Wrap it up, Ryan. Show's canceled." The heavy door snapped shut behind the detective, trapping these clowns in the exact same trap they tried to set for me. Sarah finally snapped out of it, letting out this super ugly, dramatic crying sound. But before she could even start begging for mercy, those massive wooden doors kicked wide open. Enter my daughter, Clare. She strutted in like a total boss, flexing that fake swagger of somebody who was totally convinced she was the main character. Click. Clack! Her heels hitting the marble sounded exactly like a gun cocking. She was literally glowing, completely hyped up to secure the bag on this multi-million-dollar scam. Her ridiculously expensive, overpowering perfume instantly hijacked the boring office air. At first, she totally missed me standing there. She was too busy zeroing in on Ryan and the papers, fully believing she'd crossed the finish line. Then, boom, eye contact. I watched that snobby little smirk completely melt off her face. Though honestly, she didn't even freak out. Instead, she just looked deeply, scientifically fascinated. She scanned the room, scoped out the cop, and finally locked onto me, standing there looking tough as nails. "Well, would you look at that?" she purred, her tone completely ice-cold. "Looks like the safety monitor finally found a glitch in the matrix." "Seriously? That's all you've got for the dad you literally tried to delete from existence, Claire?" I shot back, my voice so freezing cold it honestly kind of spooked me. She just gave me radio silence. Instead, she casually fixed her designer bag on her shoulder and hit me with this dead-eyed stare that screamed pure villain logic. Turns out, Claire had been quietly sucking Sarah's side hustle accounts dry for months, funneling all that cash I thought was paying for health stuff straight into her shady overseas stash. This wasn't just about robbing me blind. She was literally bankrupting her own mom along the way. That girl wasn't my kid anymore. She was a totally corrupted file I just couldn't fix. I stepped up to the table and slammed down a bonus file of backup receipts I dug out of the archives. "Sarah," I announced, glancing at my wife who was practically hiding in her seat. "You might want to check out the travel plans for Phase 6. I watched Sarah skim the paper, just one single one-way ticket to Bice under Claire's name. 0+1s. Claire's whole master plan was to let her own mother take the massive legal hit for the identity scam. While she ghosted with the lion's share of that $6.8 million, Sarah stared up at her daughter, looking completely crushed. "Claire, you weren't actually going to ditch me, right?" Claire actually laughed, this super creepy empty chuckle that literally made the pens on the desk shake. "Mom always had more drama than actual brains," she snarked, showing off this crazy, ice-cold superiority complex. She legitimately thought the fake guy was into her. She seriously bought into the delusion that she was running the show. You ever stare right into your own kid's eyes and see absolutely nothing but cold math? It left this massive, empty crater right in my chest. "You're a total psycho, Claire," I muttered. "Like a perfectly built supervillain." She just shrugged it off, like I had just praised her stupidly expensive outfit. "I prefer the term hustler," she clapped back. "You two were basically just outdated hardware. It was only a matter of time before I deleted you both from the system." The entire room went dead quiet as her insanely savage backstab completely ruined whatever was left of Sarah. Freeze frame, record scratch. Yeah, that's Detective Morris slapping the steel bracelets on her with a massive, echoing clack. Claire? Total ice queen. 0 tears, 0 fight. She just stood there taking the cuffs, completely unfazed, stiffer than the heavy metal beams I used to inspect for a living. On her little perp walk to the cop car, she hits the brakes right next to yours truly. Leaning in, choking me with that toxic waste perfume she literally bathes in, she drops this edgy supervillain whisper, "I never hated you, Jamel. Your whole good guy vibe was just a giant ATM I had to cash in on." Again, no crying, no epic screaming fit. She just checks out her shiny new metal jewelry, flashes me this psychotic little smirk, and boom, message received. Sequel incoming. So there I am, standing in the absolute dumpster fire of my family tree, watching the cops drag my kid away, realizing the bridge I spent 30 years guarding was a freaking hologram. Trudging back to my ride felt like walking through a post-apocalyptic zombie flick, except the zombies were my own garbage memories. Oh, and my front door? Looked less like home sweet home and more like the VIP entrance to a 7-year-long crime scene. Cue the dramatic porch shot. Elmwood house, keys weighing a literal ton in my sweaty palms. My boy Ethan is right there with me, basically the only thing keeping me from floating off this totally messed up planet. I pop the lock and kick the door open. Bam. Sucker punched by that classic combo of bougie floor wax and fake hospital vibes. Used to smell like Dad of the Year devotion. Now, smells like a straight-up cemetery. Strolling down the hall, I'm practically haunted by the ghost of my past self, the giant loser, who color-coded Sarah's totally bogus treatments. Every single wall in this joint is laughing at me. It's freakishly quiet, Dad. Ethan whispers, his voice bouncing around the spooky, hollow room. It's like the whole house was just holding its breath while they played you like a fiddle. Nah, kid, it's not quiet. I shoot back, sounding completely dead inside. It's empty. Always was. I was just too blind to spot the scam. Cut to me ripping the bedroom apart. Guess what I find stuffed under the exact mattress where I played nurse for years? A secret little diary. But it wasn't some tragic, oh I'm so sick journal. Nah, it was a burn book. A literal scorecard of my stupidity. Sarah had been leaving Yelp reviews on my nursing skills, bragging about triggering my salt intake paranoia while door-dashing premium lobster to some fancy waterfront pad. My soul practically hit the eject button as I realized my entire existence was just her personal, sick little sitcom. Smash! The fake dialysis machine eats dirt, plastic and glass flying everywhere. Sounded exactly like reality kicking the freaking door in. I go full Godzilla on the medical setup. Ripping tubes, sweeping rows of bogus kidney pills into a heavy-duty black trash bag like a total madman. Crinkle, crunch. That black plastic was officially my new favorite Spotify playlist. Ethan jumps right in, and suddenly we're a tag team, vibing in this dark, moody silence, which, honestly, is the best father-son bonding we've had in almost 10 years. Then, plot twist. Behind the oxygen tank, a secret stash of Jimmy Choo designer stilettos. Bro, I was living off canned tuna for months to pay her VIP doctors. I grumble out loud, just glaring at these 4-inch heels that literally cost more than my very first pickup truck. Ignore the heels, man, Ethan says, slapping a grounding hand on my shoulder. Focus on the garbage bag. The trash is taking itself out. Ever clean your room and realize you're basically just tossing out your own pathetic gullibility? I lug these massive bags through the halls like I'm dragging bodies. The musty, dead air trailing right behind me like a clingy ex. Hit the kitchen island. There it is, the very last tray of perfectly prepped placebo pills I laid out this morning. Cue the flashback of me acting all sweet, handing her a glass of water, watching her literally swallow her lies. Gag. I grab the tray and march my butt out to the driveway. The savage Chicago wind is slapping me in the face, but I'm basically a statue. I stand over the dumpster and chuck those rainbow-colored sugar pills straight into the abyss, watching them rattle against the bottom and get buried under the actual toxic waste of my joke of a marriage. My inner engineer finally checks off the ultimate demolition box. The building is officially leveled. 0 survivors in the wreckage of my trust. But wait, clearing out the nightstand, my hand bumps a fake panel. Gasp! I yank out this sketchy legal paper Sarah had been low-key trying to get me to sign while I was basically sleepwalking. A freaking do not resuscitate order. For me. Custom drafted by some shady lawyer so she could snatch up all my cash. The exact second my heart inevitably exploded from her stress factory lifestyle. I squeeze the trash bag, feeling the weight in my shoulders, but my eyes are locked on the calendar. The trial is in 3 months, babes. And Sarah? She's just the first bridge I'm gonna light on fire. December crashes in. The Chicago winter freezes the lake into solid iron and turns my heart into absolute stone, delivering the perfect icy vibes I needed to dissect the 10 years I got robbed of. Cut to me chilling in Victor's swanky high-rise office, watching the whole city get swallowed up by a wild afternoon snowstorm. Fade to black. Picture the completely muted roar of the nasty storm outside, totally clashing with the aggressive, metallic stink of a junk heater buzzing away in the corner. For the past 3 months, I'd been doing the whole tragic hermit routine in the dumpster fire that used to be my house. But today was all about crunching the receipts. My guy Victor Hayes was chilling across the table, looking like a totally sleep-deprived ghost glowing under the obnoxious LED glare bouncing off a mountain of financial printouts. Dude completely shed his slick attorney vibe and morphed straight into a forensic examiner dissecting the brutalized corpse of my trust fund. The deep dive into my cash flow was totally wrapped up, and spoiler alert, we were way past some basic credit card, skimming into pure supervillain territory. Turns out, Claire spent the last 5 years secretly holding a massive payout policy on my breathing status, except the jackpot wasn't going to the wifey or my fam. Nope. It pointed straight to some phantom company completely run by Ryan Blackwood, proving those snakes weren't just sitting around drooling over my old man's inheritance. They were literally putting chips down on my early checkout from the land of the living, which takes this way beyond casually raiding the piggy bank. Jamel, Victor deadpanned, tapping a manicured nail on some shady overseas routing codes. This right here is their ultimate getaway playbook. They weren't just snatching your allowance. They were literally trying to hit the delete button on your entire timeline. All those fancy consultation charges were secretly funding a slush fund for Claire and Ryan to sip mocktails in the tropics, while using Sarah as the flashy distraction to keep you completely clueless. I slumped way back in my chair, just glaring daggers at those endless rows of savage digits. To that squad, I was nothing but a pathetic stepping stone to stomp on and ditch once they snagged the prize. Because while humans are totally trash at being loyal, math never pulls a fast one on you. After throwing away 30 years betting on solid construction and hard facts, I was getting a hardcore crash course in the science of backstabbing. My whole vibe got boiled down to a depressing list of minus signs. Every single one representing another day. I played the ultimate simp for a chick orchestrating my permanent cancellation. Then the financial microscope zoomed in on the absolute toxic soup they had me totally hooked on. We hunted down the receipts for those little nightly sleepy treats. I was so religiously passing out like a good little sidekick. 0 actual drugstores were involved, just sketchy monthly cash drops to some ghost town postal box buried deep in the Florida swamp. Right as my brain was trying to wrap itself around that epic level of mind-bending manipulation, Victor's cell practically earthquake shook across the glass table, killing the quiet. He swiped green, soaked up the tea with his jaw clenching like a vice grip, and then shot me a serious death glare. The feds just rang up and totally nabbed Harrison in a map. He's basically a black market lockup artist playing with a kiddie science kit, and the cops scored his sketchy little black book of secrets. Turns out he had a whole VIP roster of awful people paying to put their rich relatives in sleep mode, meaning I spent 7 solid years accidentally slipping toxic garbage to my own spouse. All because I fell for some fancy printed degree. I choked out, the massive gravity of my own gullibility practically crushing my ribs. I was the clown literally spoon-feeding the trouble, obsessing over the exact measurements, all because I was following a cheat sheet drafted by an absolute crook. Like, seriously, how do you even calculate the damage of wasting 10 years wandering around in a manufactured zombie haze? I felt totally vindicated, but in the most empty, garbage way possible. My entire family dynamic was permanently nuked, swapped out for a totally insane federal investigation stretching across 3 different zip codes. Victor then dramatically shoved this super skinny dossier my way, loaded with the exact word-for-word spill Harrison gave the Miami squad when he cracked. This snake told the suits that Sarah was literally the mastermind who ordered a supersized batch of knockout drops for yours truly about 6 months back. Her excuse was that I was going way too off script and getting crazy nosy every time my smartphone pinged with a weird Cash App notification. Keeping me on mute wasn't enough for her. She wanted me permanently logged out, a fact that hit me when I locked onto this super creepy Phase 7 protocol in the final block of text. It straight up gave me aggressive goosebumps, because I wasn't just being babysat by these freaks. They were literally prepping me to get completely ghosted from reality. Flash forward to January, and the local courthouse was freezing like an industrial freezer, which was basically the perfect vibe to figure out which of my relatives were officially canceled and which were just absolute trash. I totally strutted through those massive double doors, getting smacked in the face by the gross perfume of dusty legal pads and aggressive bleach hanging in the suffocating atmosphere, while my boots smacking the tacky tile sounded like a skyscraper tumbling down. I slammed down into the spectator section, posting up on this ridiculously unforgiving, rock-solid slab of wood. Rocking perfect posture, I slapped on an absolute poker face that gave 0 emotional hints. Watching Sarah waltz into the legal arena instantly hit me with a hardcore, acidic wave of wanting to just projectile hurl everywhere. Homegirl was suddenly rocking her walking stick again, letting the super annoying squeak of its rubber foot totally shatter the quiet room. She was wrapped up in this massive, ugly grandpa knit to pull off the whole tiny and helpless aesthetic, a completely fake cosplay just to milk some sympathy tears, while her attorney popped up to spin this massive sob story, whining to the judge that his sweet little client was just a brainwashed side character, violently dragged along by her own kid's psycho power trip. The guy kept throwing around buzzwords like mental bullying and extreme stress, trying to sketch Sarah as this tragic innocent who got bullied into joining the circus act. I just kept my eyes glued to her from the cheap seats, catching the super pathetic way she kept tossing these wet, desperate puppy dog looks in my direction, begging for a VIP pass to Forgiveness Land that I had completely burned to the ground. Bam! Ultimate trap card activated. I whipped out my secret weapon. A super nerdy, ultra-detailed diary I'd been hoarding for 7 freaking years, tracking every single time she cried about being in fake butt agony. Guess what? Her so-called sick days magically lined up perfectly with her epic mall crawls downtown. Her whole web of trash was completely crumbling right in front of my mega spreadsheet of doom. That stupid walking stick? Pure cosplay? The crying? Straight up bad CGI. I was officially clocking out of this garbage tier movie, so they dragged me up to the mic, and the whole courtroom is staring holes through my skull, heavy enough to crush a skyscraper. Enter Judge Sterling. This dude's face looked like a chewed-up skateboard, rocking major seen-it-all boomer energy as he glared at me over his granny glasses. I straight up ghosted Sarah's entire existence while spilling my guts to the room. I went full ice-cold robot mode, spilling all the tea on those creepy practice clips and the hardcore sleeping pill schedule we ripped straight from her hard drive. Her lawyers were sweating bullets, begging me to say she was a good person to save her skin. Hard pass, losers. Look, as an engineer, I know structures don't just tank over one loose screw. They collapse because the whole blueprint was hot garbage from day one. I deadpanned right to the jury, cool as ice. Nobody forced her into this gig. She was the mastermind holding the timer the whole freaking time. Seriously, how do you hand out a free pass to a psycho who spent 7 years basically digging your tomb? Snip, snip! The last pathetic string tying me to that toxic relationship completely snapped, and dropping that truth bomb felt like chucking a 100-pound backpack. Her suit-wearing lawyer tried to play me out, acting like I was just some salty ex out for blood. But I just stared through him like he was a boring glitch in a concrete block. You don't throw a temper tantrum at a busted overpass, right? You just blow it to pieces so it can't drag anyone else down with it. The old guy on the bench leaned back, slamming his wooden hammer down like a heavy bass drop, totally muting the crowd for the big finale. Plot armor activated. He dropped the mic by playing a sick mixtape from Harrison's Confession. Sarah literally cackling, while faking a sick girl cough for her bank scam. Boom. Headshot. That little audio clip vaporized her being forced into an excuse into absolute dust. Sarah looked like she just saw a ghost. Her entire fake innocent disguise shattering into a million pathetic little pieces. The judge whacked his hammer again, sounding exactly like a steel beam, snapping in half, and hit her with a glare colder than a winter storm in the Windy City. Denied, buddy. See you in the ring on February 10th. I peeled out of that room like a total boss, 0 backwards glances, while the city wind screamed outside, hyping me up for the ultimate takedown. 3 weeks flash by, and karma bites back hard. Sarah had a massive stroke in lockup and flatlined before the sirens even got there, babbling some final nonsense about the girl. I ditched the gloomy funeral. Ethan flew solo, bringing back this mysterious sealed envelope, some dramatic if I croak letter she scribbled ages ago. I dumped her ashes next to my pops. 0 love involved, just checking off a totally mandatory chore. The chick I actually married faded out 7 years back. This was literally just filing papers. The February sun was just this weak, freezing circle slapping creepy, skull-like shadows all over the courthouse stairs. Cue the opening credits for the epic courtroom battle designed to officially nuke my messed-up family tree. I scored front-row VIP seats in Federal Courtroom 4B, gagging on the rank scent of ancient lumber and cheap floor polish. Seriously, it smelled like a creepy church smashed into a zombie crypt. Ethan plopped down next to me, our shoulders bumping. And honestly, having my kid there was the only thing stopping that frosty morning from deep freezing my bones forever. The head honcho lawyer jumps up to roast the bad guys with a savage opening speech, pitching this entire toxic drama not as some sweaty romance gone wrong, but as a totally calculated, nerdy demolition job. These massive high-def screens flashed a wild, 7-step master plan of my personal doom right in the jury's faces. It was a backstabbing schematic that made my old man's $6.8 million legacy look like a giant bullseye in a laser tag arena. I shot a nasty glare at Ryan Blackwood, who was practically melting into his chair between his snobby, overpriced legal squad. Stripped of his fake disguise, the dude looked like a trash-tier costume from a terrible high school play that got axed at halftime. Zero swagger left. He was just a hollowed-out meat sack who basically tried to steal my entire vibe. "They weren't just after the cash, folks," the lawyer announced, her voice bouncing around the dusty, crusty room. "They wanted to hit Control-Alt-Delete on his whole freaking life. Check out the bad guy, y'all. That's not a human face. It's a Halloween mask." Man, hearing that gave me this dark, twisted high, a totally brutal vibe check that perfectly named the nightmare I'd been stuck in. Not long after, they called Ethan up to the hot seat. I was totally trying not to bawl while my kid, who used to be this edgy, angry punk I couldn't figure out, finally had my back against the jerks who tried to put me 6 feet under. He dropped a mega truth bomb. Claire totally pressured him into signing some bogus paperwork, claiming I had lost my absolute marbles, scheming to dump me in a sketchy mental ward forever, just so they could hijack my cash without the hassle of slipping me pills every day. Newsflash. The truth doesn't just unlock the cage, man. It drops a lit match on the whole plastic fantasy they built. Ethan unpacked his whole isolated kid origin story, spilling how Claire's toxic trash talk literally brainwashed him into seeing me as this controlling, mega-abusive supervillain. Picture this. My own kid dropping the absolute mic about his monthly allowance, revealing it was basically just dirty payoff. Cash leached straight out of my personal trust fund. Click, clack. Click, clack. The stenographer's keyboard sounded like a ticking time bomb while Ethan unloaded the ultimate plot twist about one accidental send receipt that completely wrecked their little circus. "I messed up big time. Pops," he confessed, locking eyes with me from the hot seat like we were in some dramatic slow-motion movie shot. "I literally took their filthy cash to make myself scarce while they toxified your life." His voice totally cracked, and honestly, the dead quiet in that room suddenly felt as heavy as the 9 wasted years we'd never get back. I am stepping up to the plate for my old man today. Ever watch your own flesh and blood say sorry for siding with a literal supervillain? It's wild, like watching a blown-up overpass piece itself back together, one rusty bolt of faith at a time. My fingers were squeezing the life out of my chair's armrests, knuckles completely ghost white, finally sensing the absolute wreck of my existence, snapping back into a solid frame. Just as Ethan strutted off the podium, he pulled a completely unscripted move totally out of left field. The dude casually dug into his jeans and passed the lawyer a tiny, locked-down silver flash drive he'd snagged from some secret stash in his old Big Apple flat. He laid it all out. His lovely sister Claire had ditched it there on a trip, totally keeping it in her back pocket as a fail-safe parachute for her shady getaway master plan. What was on it? Oh, just some spicy, top-secret audio of Ryan and Claire plotting their dream life. A VIP itinerary that basically involved tossing Sarah under a massive, speeding bus. Ethan slumped back into the spectator seats and grabbed my hand, pumping real body heat into my frozen veins, our fingers weaving together for the first time in 10 whole years. But my eyeballs were totally glued to the creepy side entrance. Enrolled Sarah for her big scene, playing the poor, broken little victim with an absolutely Oscar-worthy poker face. She didn't even glance my way. Her laser vision was dead set on that shiny little tech gadget dangling from the attorney's grip. And boom, for the first time since our little bank rendezvous, pure, unadulterated panic was screaming from her eyes. Outside, The paparazzi were going absolutely ballistic, dropping flash bombs that lit up all the embarrassing drama I couldn't sweep under the rug anymore. The judge called a timeout, and I held on to Ethan for dear life, his sweaty grip acting as my only gravity while the wicked witch got chauffeured right past us. Total silent treatment from her. Instead, she glared at that little silver thumb drive on the legal desk with the psycho energy of a starving hawk. All the backstabbing crushed down on me, turning my chest into a freezing, airtight pressure cooker. We shoved our way out the front doors for a quick breather, only to get instantly clotheslined by a hurricane of reporters moving like a crumbling skyscraper. The news junkies were hyping it up as the $6.8 million family scam, basically turning my personal dumpster fire into a binge-worthy reality show. The front pages were throwing absolute tantrums over the body double and that totally psychotic 7-year fake illness grift. There was Claire's arrogant, high-def mug plastered across every single kiosk, rocking a grin that could easily slice your throat. Victor yanked me out of the spotlight, looking like the Grim Reaper himself while shoving an article on his tablet directly into my face. Get this. Some heavy-hitter murder mystery channel was already begging her lawyers for a tell-all chat, literally rocking iron bracelets, and my kid was still trying to monetize the absolute wrecking ball she took to my world. They are streaming my trauma like it is the latest trash TV, I vented, still reeking of that crusty, suffocating law library stench. I stared out at the mob of journalists aiming their fuzzy microphones at my head like loaded shotguns. Grabbed the popcorn and let them stare. Pops, Ethan shot back, dropping a hardcore bass in his voice that had been missing in action for a decade. Give them front row seats to your victory lap. Zap, pow, snap. Those were not just camera shutters. It was a flock of bloodthirsty buzzards, totally hyped to pick at the bones of a dude they assumed was already 6 feet under. I bailed back inside the trial room, choking on the dusty, antique furniture smell of an incoming boss battle. When the badge-wielding guard shouted my name for the sob story segment, my heart literally started drumming a death metal solo against my ribcage. I marched up to the microphone, weirdly finding that the freezing, rock-solid bench was the only thing in this whole circus not wearing a mask. Forget sounding like some pathetic, dumped hubby. I launched into it with the icy, robotic flow of an elite construction boss breaking down a catastrophic meltdown. I broke down all 2,555 days of their totally bogus nursing gig. I painted a picture of every ruined holiday and lonely anniversary, sitting in pitch blackness, holding paws with a lady who was basically just using a mental calculator on my bank accounts. And spoiler alert, it was not just my wallet that took the massive hit. Scanning the 12 wide-eyed civilians in the jury box, I dropped the ultimate truth bomb. I got suffocated by a scam for 7 years straight. I am a dude who obsesses over things holding together. But somehow, I let the concrete blocks of my own house turn to literal mush right under my feet. Seriously, try standing up in front of 12 random strangers to break down exactly how you played the ultimate simp for romance. It is a total trip. Confessing that your so-called heroic loyalty was really just a giant, stupid sleep mask is a top-tier cringe moment. I slowly swiveled my gaze over to the dynamic duo, Ryan Blackwood and Sarah. Go ahead and trace my autograph all you want, I growled, letting my tone crash into total supervillain-level depths. Rock my wardrobe and swipe my Rolex, but you will never be able to clone my actual vibe. While I dropped that mic, the state attorney flipped on the big screen, pulling up some hardcore, sci-fi lie detector tech to crash Sarah's fake health records straight into her panicking pulse during the forged signatures. Picture this. The entire jury is dead silent, staring at the lie detector chart while Sarah sits there, chillingly unbothered, totally faking a massive kidney failure. Forget the whole stressed-out victim act. This lady was a straight-up snake waiting in the grass. Watching the insane mechanics of their massive scam get completely exposed? Yeah, that felt better than therapy. I had just dropped the mic on my final testimony, leaving their whole defense in absolute ruins. Stepping out of the witness box, my legs felt like bricks, but I held it together. Boom! A bailiff suddenly cuts me off, sliding a tiny, folded piece of paper into my hand. He jerks his thumb toward the back row. My heart does a massive kickflip when I spot this girl lurking in the absolute darkest corner of the gallery. It was her, the exact same crazy talented special effects artist from Samuel's super intense forensic file. This whole sentencing phase basically felt like hammering the final, heavy metal nails into the coffin of my totally trashed past. I pop open the note, fingers absolutely shaking. The paper is literally still warm, the ink totally smudged by the exact hands that spent years making literal ghosts look real. Squinting at her messy, fancy handwriting, I swear the oxygen just completely vanished from the hallway. It was Sienna Blake, the makeup guru Samuel had roasted in his report. She wasn't here to flex, though. Homegirl was having a massive guilt trip. The tea in this letter was absolutely wild. Ryan Blackwood didn't just pay her to steal my face. Way back when they first started plotting, that psycho brought in photos of my old man, begging to look like a dude 20 years older than me. Cue the horror movie music. This wasn't just some random identity theft to ruin my life. These absolute creeps were scheming to hijack my family's massive empire way before my dad even kicked the bucket. I stumble back into the courtroom, my brain completely short-circuiting over how insanely toxic these people are. I crash into my chair right as the judge yells for order, slamming his gavel like a literal boss fight. First up on the chopping block to get sentenced? Ryan freaking Blackwood. No creepy silicone face, no dripping in swag suit, just a pathetic dude in an orange jumpsuit who wore my entire life like a cheap prom rental. I grabbed my mental popcorn and watched the judge absolutely nuke Ryan's tragic sob story about needing mercy. Nobody cared about his massive gambling debts or his washed-up stuntman drama. The judge called him a literal predator of the soul and slapped him with 12 years in a federal lockup. Ryan totally tried to lock eyes with me, begging for one last crumb of pity, but I just stared right through him like he was a dirty window. You didn't just snag some cash, my guy. The judge's voice echoed in that super dry room, laying down the brutal truth. You absolutely violated the sacred vibe of a man's home. 12 years for the mask-wearing psycho, 9 for the drama queen. Roll the end credits on this epic garbage fire of a play. Next up, Sarah rolls in on a wheelchair. And spoiler alert, she actually looked wrecked this time. Brain totally broken, 0 acting required. The judge utterly shut down her "but I'm a good mom" defense, pulling out those savage audio clips of her roasting my gullible self. She caught 9 years behind bars. She only got a discount because the digital receipts proved Claire was the true mastermind cashing all the checks. "Jemelle, I seriously messed up," she rasped out while the guards started dragging her away. "Please tell Claire I love her, okay?" "Yeah, right. I left her unread in real life. Not a single word." 9 years in the slammer for 7 years of capping felt like fair math. But emotional damage doesn't really have a calculator. I could already hear the massive clang of the prison bus doors shutting her away for good. Seriously, how are you supposed to build a brand new life when the people who laid the bricks basically planted explosives in the basement? Cut to later, me meeting Linda Crawford in this super depressing probation office box. The place reeked of cheap floor cleaner and crusty coffee. Those gross hospital lights were throwing these edgy, dark shadows all over the table. Linda, rocking her new state snitch title, was officially signing over the last $650,000 from her sketchy fake business. Total dead silence, except for the super loud scratching of her pen on the payback docs. "Sent back every single penny, Jemelle," she mumbled like she was at a funeral. "I'll be paying off the rest for the next 10 years. I just watched her sign away the final shady property she'd helped Claire snatch up in the dark." "Don't even try to thank me, Linda," I shot back, completely out of patience for this circus. "I just want this messy scoreboard totally wiped clean." She froze, her hand hovering over the paper, and hit me with this crazy intense stare. Plot twist. She spills that back when they were scheming. Claire made her hunt down some sketchy secret runway out in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. This wasn't just a flex for a private jet. It was her ultimate get-out-of-jail-free escape hatch, and I totally missed it. Linda bails, but my brain is straight up malfunctioning over one specific word in Sienna's letter. A massive clue pointing to a secret stash that even Victor's insane audit completely missed. Walking into Claire's sentencing, the vibes shifted instantly. Ice cold, razor sharp, completely brutal. Zero fake crying this time around. It felt like the justice system had finally grown actual fangs just to take a bite out of the final boss. I just hung out in the back for a sec, watching my own daughter get marched to the defense table like the absolute supervillain she is. Zero eye contact. Miss Ice Queen wouldn't even spare a glance my way, let alone look at Sarah, who was practically a puddle of pure, pathetic misery over in the corner. Claire faced the judge looking like a total snob, standing so stiff you'd think she swallowed a crowbar, radiating this seriously toxic know-it-all energy. Her chin was jacked up to the ceiling, basically broadcasting that we were all way too stupid to grasp her genius little chess match. The prosecutors painted her as this evil mastermind who totally bulldozed her own family's sanity. They called her a twisted piece of work who wasn't just hungry for the cash, but got a sick kick out of literally deleting her own dad from existence. 18 years behind bars for the big boss. I mumbled under my breath while the judge dropped the ultimate reality check. This wasn't just a cash grab for you, Claire. You wanted to completely wipe me off the map, I yelled, and she finally snapped her head toward me just as the bailiffs grabbed her. "Oh, you seriously think you took the W here, old man?" she shrieked back, her psycho screech bouncing off the crusty courtroom walls. "You are nothing but a tragic, washed-up bridge inspector trapped in a slightly fancier fishbowl." I stared as they dragged her away, hitting me right then that the toxic garbage fire she left in her wake was way worse than some boring legal loophole. 18 years. That is one massive chunk of time to rot in a cell, figuring out that ripping off your dad is what actually blew up your life. Fast forward a few months to September, and I was pulling up to that cursed Elmwood district property for the grand finale. That aggressive late summer sunshine was absolutely blasting through the windows, completely cooking the naked hardwood floors. It put every single speck of floating dust on full display in that dead, hollowed-out carcass of a house. Creeping through those silent rooms, my boots were making these spooky, echoing thuds. You could literally still see the dents in the carpet from the medical gear, like some creepy ghost haunting me about my 7-year sentence in this loony bin. The whole place was basically the staging ground for an epic robbery. A fortress I babied and obsessed over, completely brainwashed into thinking I was playing the hero and saving someone's life. Plot twist. Turns out my darling daughter faked my signature on a power of attorney and slapped a massive second mortgage on the joint. So my cash out from selling the place was going to be straight up pathetic, just one last glorious middle finger from a kid desperate to keep my life completely chaotic. Seriously, have you ever wandered through your own living room and suddenly realized you're the only authentic thing in a fake universe built entirely out of lies and cheap cardboard? I started shoving the very last of my engineering blueprints into boxes. Honestly, those sketches were the absolute only things in that dump that weren't built on a bed of lies. Suddenly, this random piece of paper flopped out of the pile. It was some beat-up old pamphlet from the Midwest Fertility and Surrogacy Center from back in 2018. Sarah and I had inked a deal with them 8 years ago, desperately trying for another kid after Ethan took off. But then her kidneys went completely haywire, and I just figured the doctors hit the kill switch on the whole project. Lightbulb moment. Claire had been hacking the clinic's emails this entire time. The absolute psycho kept the surrogacy plan completely active right under my nose. I totally ditched all the bougie couches and overpriced hypebeast shoes for the estate sales guys to deal with. I wasn't about to drag around the radioactive trash from my past. 7 miserable years keeping up a house that was completely trash from the inside out, I grumbled to myself. I slapped the tape onto the final box. Honestly, sniffing that dusty cardboard felt like smelling absolute freedom. The realtor strolled into the kitchen, clicking her ridiculously loud heels across the tile. "The ultimate autograph today has absolutely nothing to do with that stupid trust fund. It is signing away the deed to this literal graveyard," I announced, grabbing the pen like a weapon. Right as I scribbled my name on the bottom line, She casually drops that the buyer is some shady ghost company operating out of North Carolina, which was wildly trippy, considering that was the exact state I was plotting to escape to. It was one of those freak glitch-in-the-matrix moments that completely makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I slammed the pen down on the naked kitchen island, the literal exact spot where I dropped a blade a year ago, and just marched out the door. Zero regrets. Hearing the heavy deadbolt snap shut on that front door for the very last time, absolute music to my ears. Best beat drop I've heard in 10 years. I strutted over to my rig, completely hyped to leave the Elmwood zone in my rearview mirror forever. But bam! A squad of federal agents was already crashing my exit party. Not a single friendly face in the bunch. These dudes had that intense, unblinking glare of guys who just realized a massive concrete dam was about to violently explode. Agent Miller shoved this insanely thick folder into my chest. We tracked down a secret stash. Gmail. Something your psycho daughter kept completely off the books. I just glared at the file, feeling the extremely heavy vibes of one last chaotic plot twist pulling my arms down. Did I mention they weren't smiling? Total buzzkills, looking at me like I was standing on top of a ticking time bomb everyone assumed was already diffused. The second they cracked that file open, the sweet smell of my truck's leather seats, which is normally my ultimate zen zone, completely vanished. With Agent Miller totally blocking my door like a bouncer, my sweet ride suddenly morphed into just another high-end prison cell. Miller was just looming there, rocking a tailored suit that definitely didn't match a boring government paycheck, with eye bags way too deep for a dude barely in his 30s. Zero hellos, obviously. He physically pinned me to the side of my rig and whipped that massive folder right onto the hood. It hit the metal with an ugly, echoing smack that completely killed the quiet afternoon vibe. I literally thought I was done playing autograph hound for the day. I fired back, though honestly, my voice sounded insanely weak even to me. Oh, this definitely isn't the wrap-up party, Jamil. This is the kickoff for a federal grand jury, Miller shot back, sounding about as emotional as a slab of concrete. I glanced down at the ultra-crisp spy shots literally spilling out all over my truck. Boom. Close-up shots of a hardcore crypto drive, locked away in some shadowy safety deposit box. I had absolutely zero clue even existed on this planet. Smash cut to reality. That fake identity? Totally mine. Rocked it like 10 years back for some mega-nerd engineering gig in Dubai. And honestly, I chucked it into the mental garbage bin ages ago. Now my chest was basically doing a hardcore punk drum solo, violently screaming that my messy history was pulling a total zombie move. Major freak-out mode activated. The driveway was wide open, but I was suffocating like I just got shoved into a middle school locker. Turns out, the federal suits showing up had absolute zero to do with the real estate or that sketchy blade. They were hunting a sleeping cyber phantom that rudely woke up the exact millisecond I inked those property docs. Cue the dead. Creepy, quiet like. The gnarly kind right before someone totals their mom's minivan. Agent Miller gave me the classic get-in-the-loser cruiser head jerk toward his massive ride. He shoved himself into the passenger side, blowing epic waves of garbage morning breath espresso all over my personal bubble. Out comes the shiny iPad. And suddenly, he is lecturing me on crypto stash nerd trivia. Newsflash. This was not just a basic piggy bank for digital cash. It was hardwired to an insanely extra doomsday trigger. If someone fails to scan an eyeball or whatever within the next 24 hours, boom, every single juicy file gets nuked straight to the press and the corporate cops. Miller deadpanned this, while the glowing blue screen made him look like a tired, depressed smurf. We are talking stupid amounts of dirty digital money and snitch files toxic enough to absolutely nuke half the top 500 megacorps on the stock market. Wait, who even set this trap? I choked out, my hands violently vibrating as the mega disaster vibes finally hit me. Not for you, kid. It is for the psycho trying to cancel your breathing subscription, Miller hissed. He flashed the screen, and I swear, the giant red numbers were dropping like health points in a boss fight. Basically, an invisible axe was swinging down, and my tragic neck was the absolute only one on the chopping block. I slumped super hard against the seat, mentally doom-scrolling through my entire list of backstabbing frenemies and epic failures. You know that totally bogus feeling that you are stuck in a cheap horror flick? Yeah. Plot twist. I was not even the main character. I was literally just the creepy background ghost. But wait, hold your popcorn, because Miller's info dump was not over. This doomsday timer was not just chilling and waiting to blow. Some random hacker was literally ripping into the stash as we were sitting there. Some invisible lurker was casually tearing apart my supposedly bulletproof security walls, trying to yank the plug from right under my own digital nose. The Fed flipped his screen around, treating me to a glowing map of this totally invasive cyber invasion. And get this absolute brainbreaker. The hack was pinging straight from a gadget owned by my permanently deceased wife. Instant internal freezing. Sarah was gone, literally chilling 6 feet under at a cemetery I just ugly cried at like 30 days back. But nope. Her online vibe was lighting up the radar like a raging neon sign, practically screaming from the back seat. Miller gave me that hardcore principal in the hallway glare, hunting for any lies. Honestly, I was too exhausted to even defend myself. The phantom was not just floating in the server. It was coming to utterly trash everything left behind. The road turned into gray mush as Miller completely floored it to 80 miles an hour, keeping the obnoxious siren off, but acting totally unhinged by white-knuckling the steering wheel. I just rode shotgun, my brain completely short-circuiting over the crazy pin drops he showed me. Like a total clown. 12 months ago, I actually thought all my toxic family drama was dead and buried. Cut to today. A ghost's Wi-Fi signal is literally dragging me by the ear straight back into the absolute worst dumpster fire of my life. Mid-street race. Miller casually drops that Claire has been furiously throwing tantrums in her max security lockup just to get a playdate with me. She has been locked up for a solid year, he mumbled, staring out the windshield like a robot. So, how the heck is she magically poking at a top-secret flash drive from inside a literal concrete bunker? I just face-planted against the freezing window pane, zoning out at the seriously depressing Midwest sky. Dude, probably because mentally, she runs the whole show. I snarked back, remembering how Claire's freakish superbrain always plays three-dimensional chess while the rest of us eat paste. You seriously want to know how to ditch a psycho who is already trapped behind steel bars? Spoiler alert. You totally do not. You literally just sit there like a good pet until she yanks your chain. We finally rolled up to the mega prison, this insanely bleak pile of ugly concrete and razor wire that basically eats happy thoughts for breakfast. Miller marched me through a million super loud electric gates, gagging on the gross combo of fake lemon cleaner and sweaty desperation. My brain was doing totally confusing backflips. Wifey is a literal corpse, but she is out here hacking $1 million doomsday button? The math was totally not mathing. There sat Claire behind the bulletproof window, wearing that basic issue prison orange that screamed aggressively against her vampire pale vibe, looking like a total wax figure who had not caught a single ray of sunshine in 12 months. She was serving skinny scary, practically shooting daggers with 0% of those fake sorry tears she cried in court. "Rough night, Jimmy?" she sneered, her voice sounding super scratchy and gross over the cheap plastic jail phone. "Guess dumping the real estate did not magically fix your pathetic life, huh?" I squeezed the phone so hard my fingers were basically glowing white. "So, absolutely loving that little surprise I left hanging out in the kitchen?" she mocked, totally bragging about that legal landmine that almost ruined my entire existence. I refused to give her a reaction. "The feds are totally convinced you are the supervillain hacking the trigger," I snapped. "So spill it, Claire. Is it you?" She just creepily leaned forward, puffing up the glass with her breath. Bam! Villain monologue time. She smugly dropped the bomb that stopping the timer required 2 actual physical keys, and she was casually hiding the backup one right under our clueless noses. "So, if you are still tagging along on this absolutely unhinged roller coaster ride, yo, sound off in the comments to prove you haven't bailed on this chaotic ride yet. Spam the word iron down below if you're riding shotgun with my man Jamel. Quick reality check. I totally spiced up a few details in this next chapter for maximum cinematic flair. If your weak little heart cannot handle the heat, no hard feelings. Just go ahead and click off the screen right now. Boom. Action. That flimsy plexiglass separating us felt like absolute garbage. Claire pressed her face practically against the pane, dropping her voice into this super creepy slasher movie whisper that totally sliced right through my skull. I didn't erase her ghost, Jimmy. I turned it into a freaking nuke. She practically spit at me. Then she casually dropped the bomb that her hands were totally clean on the whole firewall-smashing front. That tech under my dead wife's name? Yeah, not a poltergeist. It was some sketchy phantom botnet AI that Claire coded up in her basement before the feds bagged her. This digital gremlin totally ripped off Sarah's online identity, dodging the suits at the FBI while systematically tearing my life into confetti. Cut the crap, Claire. Hand over the location for the backup key, I snapped, practically gagging over the sick fact that she hijacked her own mom's legacy just to flex on me. Those awful, buzzing prison lights overhead were straight up giving me a mega migraine. Smirking, she claimed this second key was not some shiny trinket, but an actual flesh-and-blood human kicking rocks right outside the lockup, just chilling and waiting for yours truly. She slapped her hand onto the smudged window and aggressively pointed toward the parking lot, right where this creepy shadow was lurking by my ride. And get this, the freak was rocking the exact same dark wool jacket my wife took to the grave. I booked it. My combat boots stomped the cheap floorboards like rapid-fire blasts, tearing down a corridor that suddenly felt like it stretched for 3 miles. Shoving through the ultimate layer of security doors, I stumbled out into the blinding daylight, totally gasping for breath after breathing that recycled jailhouse garbage. I slammed on the brakes exactly 10 feet away from the bumper, my gaze completely dead set on that haunted dark outerwear. The weirdo didn't even flinch. Where the heck did you score that jacket? Speak up. Who are you? I roared, sounding like a total wreck after bottling up 12 months of pure, unfiltered panic. Homeboy rotated in slow motion, and my heart rate spiked so hard I almost face-planted on the concrete. Spoiler alert. Not a spirit from the beyond. Totally not a zombie version of my dearly departed bride, either. It was literally just some random delivery dude. A super nerdy kid, maybe in his 20s, shaking in his sneakers, while drowning in a lady's overcoat that swallowed him whole. The dweeb shoved out an ancient, blocky cell phone that started blaring the instant I stepped up. Some crazy chick dropped $500 in my lap to just stand out here and pass you the brick when it buzzed. He stuttered like crazy, totally reeking of wet fabric. I swear, that is the whole gig. I am totally clueless. Yanking the noisy plastic from his trembling grip, the pathetic truth hit me like a ton of bricks. That whole spooky setup was a total fake-out. Claire orchestrated this masterclass in mind games purely to mess with my adrenaline, treating psychological torture like it was her senior art project. I cracked the clunky screen open. The creepy voice speaking back sounded like Darth Vader gargling gravel through a busted toaster. Clock is ticking, buddy. 3 hours until the kill switch wipes the slate clean, the static spat out. Dropping a GPS pin straight into a super sketchy neighborhood I swore I would never step foot in again. That backup key is not a thing you can stick in a lock, Jamel. It is a living, breathing target hanging out at those exact coordinates. And why the heck would I blindly follow instructions from an auto-tuned robot? I yelled back, but the coward already hung up. Look, they say hoping for things is like squeezing a fistful of broken glass. The tighter you hold on, the more of a bloody mess you become. But you are way too chicken to drop it and deal with the fallout. I just chilled there against my pickup, while the fiery sunset lit up the barbed wire, throwing these super dramatic, jail bar shadows all over the pavement. Palming that dinosaur tech in one hand while juggling the Fed's insane ultimatums in my brain, my personal cell suddenly blew up in my pocket. It played that specific, dreadful ringtone that pretty much screams game over. I hit accept, totally bracing myself for some suit named Miller or Victor to start barking orders. Nope. Got hit with the driest, most exhausting corporate voice imaginable. Mr. Pierce, this is Sarah from Child Protective Services. I am reaching out regarding an Emma Pierce Crawford. Homegirl was born back in June 2023, well over 12 months ago. Thanks to that baby-making contract you and your deceased spouse kicked off in 2018. I grabbed the side mirror just to stay vertical. That deal was totally scrapped. We literally got our cash back from the doctors. Hard no, buddy. It never died. It just got legally handed off. Your lovely offspring, Claire, swooped in as the big boss back in 2019 when your wife got sick. She completely lied to the pregnant girl, saying you bailed to Europe for a job. So when Claire got busted last November, the baby mama caught the scandal on TV and rang our hotline. Little Emma has been bouncing around the foster system since December. Our lab geeks totally proved your 2018 autograph was legit. Talk about a brain freeze, my entire circulatory system turned to literal slush. Wait, Claire straight up stole my baby contract? Bingo, dude. You need to drag your butt down to headquarters. As soon as possible. My lungs went completely offline. Out of nowhere, the smoggy parking lot atmosphere morphed into this thick, suffocating sludge that I could not even choke down. I am a dad to a little girl, I mumbled, the concept tasting completely alien on my tongue. Plot twist of the century. While I was busy throwing a pity party over my dead marriage and dodging lawyers, a whole secret human spawned right in the middle of my dumpster fire of a life. I absolutely lost it, screaming to know her exact location, my brain totally melting down. So, picture this. My entire reality for the past 12 months just crumbled like a stale Pop-Tart. Through the crappy phone speaker, caseworker Sarah kept droning on, sounding about as warm as a robot in a freezer. She hits me with the classic authority figure ultimatum. Get your butt down to the agency, right now, because this kid is running out of time in state lockdown. Quick pop quiz for you. How exactly are you supposed to mourn a baby you literally just found out about, all while dodging a dead ex who refuses to stay in her grave? I was just hiding out in my battered pickup outside the local prison. The dead quiet of the parking lot made her nagging voice echo inside my skull like the worst dubstep drop ever. Then she went full-on secret agent whisper mode, dropping the bomb that my psycho ex Claire didn't even give birth to this mystery 4-month-old infant I allegedly sired. I squeezed the steering wheel so hard my knuckles popped, my brain completely short-circuiting. I was absolutely dying for a clue. But my burner phone, yeah, I rock a retro flip phone. Deal with it. Started buzzing like an angry hornet. Some creepy automated voice was barking orders at me to get a move on. But those GPS digits it spit out? Totally not. Some random rendezvous point. It was a freakish riddle. The exact dimensions mapped right back to my old crib over in Elmwood, the one I literally just handed the keys over for. Boom. Mind blown. That super secret cash buyer wasn't just some random rich dude. They were the ultimate trap card in Claire's twisted little game. FBI agent Miller was blowing up my radio, but I just ghosted him and burned serious rubber out of that parking lot. Yeah, I am definitely skipping our playdate, Miller. I grumbled at my dusty dashboard. I have a real estate deal that actually needs my attention. My tunnel vision kicked in hard, acting like a laser beam cutting through this massive, totally messed up nightmare. Mirror 15 3K4. Those codes bounced around my brain like a catchy punk hook while I ripped through the Chicago sunset, racing toward a house I didn't even own anymore. I pulled up to the Elmwood pad right when the crappy yellow street lamps buzzed on for the night. Honestly, I felt like a total criminal breaking into my own history, slipping through the patio door smoothly since I spent 7 years literally installing that security system. The main bathroom was freezing, reeking of soggy plaster and gross, ancient glue. I locked eyes with the main vanity mirror, the exact same spot where I used to stare at myself having an existential crisis a few months back. I never bothered checking behind the stupid thing because it was practically cemented to the wall, a stubborn anchor in my chaotic, messy life. So, I grabbed a massive crowbar from my rig and shoved it right between the glass and the tiles. The metal scraping the ceramic sounded like a straight-up banshee wailing. I put my entire back into it, feeling my arms burn, Here is a fun fact about thick glass. It never just snaps. It practically explodes. The whole thing shattered, raining down shiny silver shrapnel all over my boots like some kind of hardcore cyber snowstorm. Hidden right behind those razor-sharp edges, perfectly carved into the wall like a surgeon did it, was a sneaky little secret compartment. My hand grazed against something totally unexpected. It was this tiny gadget, about the size of a deck of playing cards, radiating heat. I yanked it out into the dim light. A miniature server box with an annoying blinking green bulb, wearing a fake sticker that said climate control. Yeah, right. Like this thing cared about the thermostat. It had a network cable drilling straight into the wall, completely leeching off my Wi-Fi. This was the actual mother brain of the ghost server, chilling in my walls for 7 whole years, jacking up my utility bills. Claire had literally planted a ticking time bomb in my safe space. I yanked the wires out so hard the green light choked and died. The phantom network was officially dead. Poking around the hole again, I felt the freezing plastic of another crypto wallet, an exact clone of the one those feds had in lockup. Wedged right under it was a folded piece of paper. I dragged it out, my heart basically playing a heavy metal drum solo in my chest. I recognized the messy ink strokes immediately. It was my exact handwriting. Same pretentious cursive loop I always used for official paperwork. Except, spoiler alert, I definitely did not write it. I gasped, practically choking on my own breath. There is no physical way I could have done it. The paper was stamped 3 days after Sarah supposedly kicked the bucket, and it straight up listed my ultimate top-secret passcode. Kill the timer, rescue the chick. Ever wonder how badly it sucks to find out you are the ultimate bad guy in a comic book you have not even finished reading? I dragged both digital vaults over to the fancy kitchen counter, plugging them together with a heavy-duty tech cable I usually save for the field. The glowing blue lights started throbbing against the marble top, looking exactly like a cybernetic heartbeat matching up with the proxy's doom clock. The countdown finally chilled out, those angry red numbers shifting to a boring hacker green while the files cracked open. I was totally bracing myself for some boring tax fraud docs or shady overseas bank statements, but the folder names popping up on the screen made every single drop of blood vanish from my face. No boring math spreadsheets here. Just a bunch of super creepy hospital charts labeled Emma_biological source. Work with me, you stupid piece of junk. Crack open! I spat, mashing my fingers across the keyboard like a maniac. The last chunk of code broke open with a cute little ding. A picture snapped onto the display. Some dude hanging out in a maternity ward, cradling a newborn. That dude had my face. But a quick check of the file stats proved it was total garbage, 100% artificial intelligence-generated fake news. Back in 2023, Claire had completely photoshopped my mug onto the surrogate's boyfriend's body, probably to scam the poor woman into thinking I was part of the plan. Right under that totally bogus picture was the legit proof. My actual 2018 baby-making contract with Sarah, signed, stamped, and ready to ruin my life. That messy scribble? 100% mine. Put it to paper way before my entire universe turned into a giant flaming dumpster fire of lies. The sucky neon lights at the child services waiting room buzzed like an angry hornet trapped in my skull. Except, plot twist. For the first time in basically forever, I wasn't plotting an epic escape route. I stayed glued to this brutally cheap plastic chair, gripping my kneecaps so my hands would stop vibrating while I waited for Sarah to show up. Out in the asphalt jungle, Agent Miller was probably still drooling over the crypto drives I just tossed his way like candy. Those files backed up every crazy story I fed him. And man, the morning breeze was finally hitting different, like zero toxicity. I dropped the whole squad. Every digital stash, every hidden server, every single bad guy. It was the ultimate cheat code. I basically bought a get-out-of-jail-free card and legit papers for a kid I didn't even know, totally nuking Claire's dirty money empire with one master blueprint in return. Miller shot me this exhausted. You're insane, but I respect it glare, though his totally ominous warning kept playing on loop in my brain. You're taking home a dead woman's kid, Jamel. Try not to end up as a phantom yourself, man. Dude was totally clueless about the phantom proxy code running the show in the background. The program wasn't built to ruin my life. It was like a virtual babysitter holding Emma's coordinates hostage until I completely cut the cord and sold that cursed Elmwood mansion. Talk about an absolute god-tier backup plan, a pure, nerdy work of art. Seriously, ever try holding a 6-month-old baby? It hits you that this tiny human literally gives zero craps about your messy villain era. The door kicked open, and Sarah dragged me into this silent little box reeking of baby powder and creepy hospital cleaner. She was hauling a tiny burrito wrapped in a bright yellow fuzzy blanket. Emma was exactly 13 months of pure sass, rocking a messy mop of dark hair and massive, judging eyes colored the exact same moody gray as my own. The second she plopped the kid into my arms, the sheer heft of her felt like dropping the bass drop on a totally new reality. Then Sarah shoved a printout of the 2018 paperwork right in my face. Okay. Yeah, I definitely remembered signing that. Sarah and I were totally hyped, mapping out our empty nester vibes after Ethan bailed. But then her kidney issues crashed the party just weeks later. We ghosted the doctor visits, so I figured the deal was dead. Turns out, my sneaky little ghost program had been scrubbing the fertility lab's emails from my inbox for 5 whole years. Claire pulled a massive supervillain move and hijacked the entire project. She literally stashed my own flesh and blood kid away as her plan B just in case her giant bank robbery totally flopped. Sarah's beyond-the-grave note spilled all the tea. Claire snooped through my desk and swiped the contract back in 2018. The psycho saw a golden ticket, a literal baby she could use to hijack your cash flow if her other shady plots crashed and burned. The kid was yours from day one, Jamel. I tried to pull the plug back in 2020, but she was already running the show. I was totally powerless to stop her massive cover-up. Sarah broke the dramatic tension, whispering, "She's been hanging out waiting for you, Mr. Jamel." I squeezed the kid tight, feeling her tiny heartbeat drumming against my ribs. "My bad for taking basically forever to track you down," I mumbled into her hair. She wasn't just some living proof of a robbery. She was the one epic connection that evil witch Claire couldn't blast with dynamite. We ditched Chicago that very afternoon, watching the concrete jungle shrink in the rearview mirror until it was just a blurry memory of skyscrapers and bad vibes. I hit the gas, cruising west, then dropping south toward the Blue Ridge Mountains. Asheville gave off major campfire and hidden mystery energy, the ultimate hideout for a dude trying to bury his demons and level up as a dad. My beast of a truck loudly chewed up the gravel road as I rolled up to this super secretive cabin I snagged through a dummy corporation months ago. Yeah, another mega brain play courtesy of my hacker proxy. The insanely sharp, freezing mountain altitude felt like it was power washing the toxic garbage of the Elmwood slums right out of my lungs. I dumped our pathetic pile of gear under a crazy canopy of fall leaves, the fiery orange and crimson branches basically mirroring the setting sun. Emma totally crashed through the whole move, acting like a warm, heavy sandbag on my shoulder as I marched her through the front door. "Solo squad from here on out, kiddo," I announced to the totally vacant, pine-smelling walls. I strolled into the tiny kitchen and slammed her baby carrier onto the counter. Next to a fresh pile of houseplans was one lone envelope with my name on it. That handwriting basically burned into my retinas. It was Sarah's, my dead wife. The actual, legit Sarah, way before the sickness and the giant web of drama ruined everything. It was the ultimate missing puzzle piece, hardcore proof that she was totally down with the baby stuff before our universe got unplugged. I ripped the envelope open with violently shaking hands. But right before my eyeballs could scan the first word, that busted old burner phone from the messenger. The identical one, I swore. I chucked into a nasty gas station trash can 300 miles back, buzzed once in my pocket. The shake hit me like a straight-up taser blast. I dug into my jeans and yanked it out. The garbage little screen lit up the spooky mountain quiet like a radioactive glow stick. The cheap plastic actually felt hot in my hand, like some cursed artifact from a nightmare year I was positive I'd buried 6 feet under Elmwood's nasty red mud. I just froze in the dead quiet Asheville shack, staring down the moon as it creeped over the razor-sharp mountain ridgeline. I snapped the burner open, my thumb scraping over the beat-up keys as I shoved the speaker against my ear. I was bracing for Claire's supervillain Ice Queen monologue, but instead I got, "Guard Derek." Dude sounded like a totally garbled dumpster fire of sheer panic mixed with fake tough guy swagger. Cue the pathetic whimpering of a dude playing way outside his league. Claire figured she completely owned me. "Jamel," he whined. His voice was all static and desperation, buzzing through the sketchy phone line. But she was totally clueless that I had the scoop on her little crypto flash drive. Lightbulb moment. The guy blowing up my phone wasn't some invisible hacker god or a phantom. Nope. He was just the inside rat running her dark web puppet show right from his jail cell. Homeboy totally flipped on her because a fat stack of stolen digital cash speaks way louder than loyalty. Now he was barking at me for the access passwords, the exact same ones I just dumped right into the lap of the federal agents. The idiot actually thought he could snag the jackpot for his own wallet. "She is not your partner anymore, Derek." I dropped the line completely deadpan, freezing him right in his tracks. "She is rotting exactly where she deserves to be." I just kicked back and let Derek freak out, painting a picture of the absolute zoo currently erupting over at the slammer. Apparently, Crazy Claire tried to pull a prison break through the utility pipes while using her bot network as a decoy. Turns out, wanting cash makes you do way dumber stuff than romance ever could. Derek's panicked rambling proved that theory instantly, though their grand escape was basically a flaming garbage fire from day one. See, when I tossed that encrypted thumb drive to Agent Miller a few hours prior, I did not just buy my own get-out-of-jail-free card. I totally, accidentally tripped a massive alarm system that slammed the concrete doors shut before she even sniffed fresh air. "You threw her under the bus, huh?" Derek spit through the receiver. "You handed the suits the entire playbook." I just stared at the fire in my living room, watching the sparks spit and dance. "I didn't sell anybody out," I fired back. "I just locked the gate behind her." Click! The call violently dropped, just as security alarms wailed in his background, leaving me completely solo with the howling breeze and some random bird screeching outside. I slammed that ancient burner phone onto the fireplace shelf and grabbed the thick paper packet I had been clutching. The parchment was vintage, feeling incredibly soft and weirdly nostalgic in my hands. Spoiler alert. It definitely was not a love note from Claire. It was actually some crazy, overdue lawyer mail from Sarah, my ex-wife. Reading her messy handwriting by the flames, a massive truth bomb suddenly blew apart 7 long years of toxic lies. She laid it all out. She spotted Claire's psycho vibes ages ago, way before everything went violently sideways. The pages revealed that Sarah actually paid to have the first stealth bot coded way back in the day. It was supposed to be a secret digital vault to keep Emma's adoption papers totally safe. Naturally, Claire found the raw data, ripped it apart, and turned the thing into a literal cyber weapon. That nasty artificial intelligence that nearly wrecked my life? Just a super toxic mutation of the exact software Sarah created to be my ultimate safety net. Having Emma through a surrogate was basically her ultimate parting present, a lifeline she designed so I wouldn't totally drown in my own depressing pity party. Like, seriously, how many dumpsters do we have to set on fire before we realize we are the ones holding the lighter? A massive wave of zen finally hit my system. It was this rock-solid inner peace I honestly had not felt since I was some rookie kid checking out my first major construction gig. "Live large for the two of us. Jamel." Her fancy handwriting wrapped up the note. "That kid is yours. She always belonged with you." I strolled down the hall and just stared at my kid sleeping like a rock for a solid 60 seconds. She was literally the only thing in this messed up universe that actually mattered. Walking back to the living room, I snatched up that garbage burner phone and chucked it straight into the burning coals. I stood there watching the glass shatter and the cheap plastic turn to black goo. The final nightmare of the Elmwood crew just poofed away in a tiny blue spark. I yeeted that clunky device right into the blazing heat, smirking as the display turned to liquid. The ultimate phantom of that entire neighborhood sizzled into nothingness, leaving zero noise behind except the soft, rhythmic snores of my little girl down the hall. Life used to feel like a ticking time bomb I could not defuse. But nowadays, it is literally just the hilarious giggles of a tiny human bouncing off our wooden house. I was chilling on the front deck, breathing in that hardcore forest scent and a super faint, sugary whiff of party cake wafting through the warm breeze. 15 months had rolled by since I won full rights to my kid, and the whole planet just hit completely differently now. Emma was zooming right up to the big number 2. And get this, I was not just playing hermit in the woods anymore. I had totally leveled up. Now, I am the #1 freelance genius working for the Federal Bureau. I literally spend my 9 to 5 hunting down the exact same sketchy dark money networks and stealth bots that almost deleted my existence. Flipping my worst nightmares into my biggest superpower was honestly the only shot I had at making my future bulletproof. Looking at Emma running around outside with the sun hitting her dark hair, she was absolutely killing it. She had this insane, rebellious streak that totally mirrored the absolute best traits of the only girl I had ever really fallen for. 2 whole years, kiddo, I called out, slouching against the wooden banister. You are totally catching up to the rest of us. She peeked over her jungle gym, radiating the kind of goofy happiness you only see in cartoons. Got some cake? She babbled, and I just grinned like an actual, real-deal smirk that did not feel like a massive workout for my jaw muscles. Being chill is not about dodging the hurricane. It is about pouring a ton of concrete after your life gets completely nuked. I spent decades checking out overpasses, but this specific connection I engineered right here, linking my totally messed up history to this little girl's tomorrow, was the only masterpiece that actually counted. I ducked back into my tiny workspace right before lunch. The hardcore clack-clack of my encrypted keyboard kicked in, playing that sweet, grounding theme song of my brand new life. Boom! Case closed, gig finished, and just like that, I was officially retiring my white hat hacker badge. My monitors were glowing with the neon-soaked grid of cyber nasties I'd successfully blocked, when suddenly, a heavily guarded ping popped up, Agent Miller sliding into my secure channel. We totally ditched that whole cat-and-mouse garbage a while ago. Now we were just 2 dudes trauma-bonded by the sketchy underbelly of the internet. Your slate is spotless, Jim, the text flashed. Every single legal loophole is locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Keep a low profile, he warned. I just smashed the keyboard. Dude, being on the grid is totally overrated anyway. Slamming my rig shut, the massive rush of ultimate payback hit me way harder than any fat stack of cash ever could. I literally weaponized their own garbage against them, building an absolute fortress. But right before logging off, I spotted this sneaky little hidden file chilling in my vault. It was a total blockbuster-style burner note, rigged to blow up only after the feds officially ghosted the investigation. The script unraveled like a boss-level cutscene, dropping one last life hack from my ex-wife regarding that mountain of crypto I snagged from the wiped accounts. You actually pulled it off, Jim, the glowing letters taunted in a good way. You brought her back to base. Eventually, you quit stressing about the creeps chasing you not because they vanished, but because they are just too slow to catch your dust. I strutted out to the deck, letting that crisp twilight mountain air slap me in the face. My kid, Emma, was just vibing on the stairs, fingers totally wrecked with chocolate icing as she aimed a sticky thumb at the sunset. That is when the light bulb went off. I was not just scraping by anymore. I was actually living my best life, the one I was supposed to have before that massive Elmwood neighborhood dumpster fire tried to wreck everything. I stashed a piece of that shadow code, like a secret superhero lurking in the mainframe, making sure Emma's college fund would be bulletproof forever. Think of it as my ultimate masterpiece, a safety net that 0 hackers could shred. As the sun crashed behind the Blue Ridge peaks, throwing crazy purple comic book shadows all over the grass, this totally suspicious, blank letter magically showed up in the mail. No delivery dude brought it, and it definitely was not some zombie enemy coming back for round 2. I crunched down the driveway to grab it, spotting a sender's location that practically made my jaw drop. Looking at the big picture, this whole twisted family drama was never just about greedy backstabbing. It was a brutal wake-up call about how caring for toxic people puts literal blindfolds on you. For 7 straight years, I thought eating dirt meant I was loyal and keeping my mouth shut made me tough. Man, did this circus prove me wrong? Blindly pouring your heart out without checking your six just paints a massive bullseye on your back, right in your own living room. My whole angry dad on a warpath vibe was not even about wrecking the losers who threw me under the bus. The ultimate flex was stealing my life back, shielding my girl, and completely refusing to let my origin story end in a tragic villain arc. If you learn literally anything from this mess, let it be this. Do not ignore those tiny red flags when someone acts shady. They always blow up into massive problems. I am convinced the big guy upstairs sometimes lets a tornado rip through your life just to show you what needs a total remodel. Through all that chaos, I found the only loot worth guarding my kid and the freedom to just be real. So if your squad ever turns on you, remember, real power is not about blowing up their spot. It is about seeing through the nonsense. My legendary payback tour officially wrapped the second I picked chilling over raging, leaving that burning wreckage in the rearview. And that, folks, is the actual finale of this crazy comic strip of a life. Massive thanks for riding out this chaotic storyline with me. Drop your hot takes below. Seriously, how would you react if your own blood basically cloned your life and robbed your identity blind? Sound off in the comments. If this saga gave you life, smash that subscribe button so you never miss the next wild episode. Quick disclaimer though, while this epic tale was fueled by some very real, extremely messy family drama, we totally cranked up the special effects and drama just to make it a blockbuster watch. If edgy survival stories are not your jam, no sweat, go binge something else that fits your vibe.